Uh-oh. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, DH Thorne, coming at you live with another beautiful stream on a beautiful day. It is now Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't expect this to be a huge stream since it's a little off schedule, but I am joined today. I'm actually under siege with the illustrious Siege, one of my friends and mods from the Discord. He decided to take a day trip and visit for a couple of days. So, yeah, Thornhub is under siege, CM Helnikainen. It is absolutely under siege. This dude over here is pretty much just sitting in my ritual chamber with, like, my wife's camera. He's basically taken over. It all belongs to him now, but the sucky thing for him is he's going to have to worry about the bills and all the bullshit now and all the client questions. And so hopefully you guys can get down with that. But we're probably going to be doing this for just a shorter time today, because we've got a club to go to tonight, and we're going to have fun. So Siege, why don't you say hello to everybody at home and introduce yourself? Who is Siege, the man, the myth, the dude in the hood that looks like an evil Papa Smurf? Who is this guy?
Well,
it's Jesus. Oh, Jesus! It's Siegeus.
it's Lucifer, actually.
It's Siegeus.
Or
Yeah, it's Lucifer. Yeah.
no, my name is Siege. I've been a fan of DH's for a long time. Got connected to the Discord server. I've been practicing magic for a few years and continuing to learn, continuing to grow in my magic. That's just all I'm about, baby.
Yeah, baby. What is magic anyway? What do you think magic is, Siege? So I can tell you you're wrong. I'm kidding. What do you think? What do you think magic is?
That's something I've been trying to work out for like a while myself, is like, how can I words out a definition for magic with a K? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it doing something? Is it the act of it? One way I like to view magic is one thing I like to say is everyone performs magic, whether they're intentional about it or not. The way I view it is you're constantly manifesting the reality you experience before you, and that in itself is magic. But I feel like we call it magic when we take that and we're more intentional about it.
Mm-hmm. Let's maybe we should have some fun today, and we'll play semantics and we'll play philosophy a little bit, and we'll actually talk about what magic probably is. I know what I think it is. I think it's a word that we use, like the word miracle. The word miracle means a wonder or a mystery or both. A wondrous mystery. The thing is, magic doesn't mean anything. Magic has lost its meaning, partially because pop culture, partially because of people like me. Everybody's got 12,000 different ideas of what it is. I've come to prefer the word manifestation, because if we break down the word manifestation, what does it mean? It means to make apparent. It means to reveal. It's basically revelation. It means to make something visible or otherwise make it known. Magic is a way, it is a collection of philosophical, practical, pragmatic approaches so that the individual can come to terms with what you said before, with the fact that each of us continually manifests our reality. However, most of the time we do it unconsciously, not even subconsciously, unconsciously. Once you begin to get your feet wet into genuine magic, one of the first things that happens is you realize, okay, I'm no longer manifesting my reality unconsciously. I'm now starting to manifest it subconsciously. And so magic becomes a practice where you talk to your subconscious. That's like, so level 0 is reality's happening to me. Level 1 is I am subconsciously making reality happen. What do you think level 3 is? Well, the next step would be I am consciously manifesting reality to some degree or another. The final level, or maybe not the 4th level, maybe it's like the 400th level, but at the end of the rainbow is to awaken fully to the fact that not only is this like a lucid dream, but the dreamer and the dreamer one, there's absolutely no separation between those two things. And what you think of as consciousness, subconsciousness, unconsciousness, they're all veils of ignorance. So let's come at this from the as above perspective just for a moment. If you are the divine, whatever that means to you, I like to use the word consciousness as a finger pointing at the divine, because the divine is not just consciousness, but consciousness isn't just what our textbook word is for it. That's the problem. We have a word in the textbooks that says it's just awareness of stuff. Consciousness implies more than just awareness. It implies mind. And by mind, I don't mean thoughts. I mean a kind of intelligence, a kind of awareness that includes a shifting of attention and stuff like that. It's not just I'm aware, but that shifting of attention is more, it's not like a moving spotlight, because that's like an additive process. Like you're adding light to see. Shifting consciousness is really about, think of it more like you're parting reeds. Like imagine you're in a jungle and there's like reeds everywhere, and you're like, and you're seeing a scene. That's what personal consciousness is. Those reeds are the ignorance, avidya, of non-dual language. So to consciously manifest your reality requires that you are, one, aware of the fundamental nature of what you are. You don't have to be a rocket scientist version of it. You can just have an awareness of it, realize that consciousness is the fundamental substrate of everything. Ignorance is that which creates the illusion of separation and detail. And that conscious manifestation is literally taking that and peering into multiple layers, or one layer at a time, whatever, manifesting a small part of the totality of what is there. So what is magic? Well, it's not the Goetia. The Goetia is not magic. Solomon is not magic. Necronomicon is not magic. Shadownomicon is not magic. Become the Maelstrom is not magic. Crowley's books are not magic. The Golden Dawn is not magic. The Egyptian stuff is not magic. None of that is magic. Those are a technology that you can call magic, but it's a technology, but it's a psychological technology. It is not a mechanistic technology. Now, that doesn't mean there's no mechanisms involved, but it is a psychiatric. Now, when I say psychiatric, I don't mean like, oh, you have bipolar, or, you know, you're dealing with the loss of a loved one psychology. I mean higher psychology, as in psyche psychology, as in psychospiritual psychology. So magic, if I were to really give it a name, is not causing changes in accordance with will or any of that stuff. It is, you could still say that, but if when you say that, you think or realize that it means that you are manifesting, you are revealing the truth. Remember, I take a mystical approach, not a like, you know, a Thelemite or a Golden Dawn or a mechanical approach. I take a mystical approach. Magic, capital M, capital K, whatever you want, is a technology that helps you come to terms with the reality of what you are in a way that allows you to consciously live that way. Now, then I have another term, sorcery. So sorcery is taking that realization and applying it. That's the technology that leads to changes in your experiences. So for example, if I am, you know, trying to achieve a goal, I don't use magic for the goal. I can call it that, you know, that's fine. I can say like, oh, I'm using magic, because that's what most people colloquially understand. So I'll just say, oh, I used magic. Because in a way I did, because magic is like the physics, and sorcery is like the computer, right? Like you need the physics to understand how to make a better computer.
All right.
So sorcery is a collection of psychological processes, like mantras or meditations, or you get your candles out and in your mind, in your psyche, they represent this and this and this. There's correspondences. So you're literally engaging in thought play, which allows you to manifest intentionally that which you will. Now, we're also talking about mundane actions as well, because aren't all magical actions built of mundane actions? Aren't sorcery, isn't it all built of... So you're doing a jar spell. Aren't you taking a jar, unscrewing it? It's a bunch of mundane actions, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when you recognize that those mundane actions are symbolic for psychic actions? Every one of those mundane actions represents a psychic shift. So it stops being about the candles. The candles are a symbol of something going on, not even up here. Up here is a metaphor too, but something going on in your psyche. And it's your psyche navigating with like a spotlight, like it's peering through bushes and seeing a bigger picture and manifesting it. This is why I say, don't think of magic like you're causing shit to happen. Think of it like you're revealing it in another timeline. It's like you're guiding yourself to a timeline where it happens. You're not causing anything. You're changing the tracks that you're on, like on a railroad. That requires what? Awareness. You have to be aware. You have to first be able to see the outcome, right? Like, don't you, like we were talking about this yesterday in the car. I said, don't you have to like center yourself completely in your outcome? So let me stop there for a minute because I'm kind of overdoing it.
I'm along for the ride, man.
What do you think of what I'm saying? Does this run afoul of your experiences of it, or is it, you know?
I totally agree with you, right? Like I look at magic, it's like an enabler. It gives us permission.
I like that. It's an enabler, but a positive enabler.
It gives us permission to allow the shift in reality that was always meant to be.
Good point too. That's another layer that magic teaches you. Or mysticism, really, because like I said, I like to start with mysticism and work my way out. Mysticism will tell you that what you think of as will, or most of us confuse our desire for will. We think if I want it hard enough, I can have it. But that's never the case. Anybody who's suffered real loss in their life, for example, you lose a loved one or something bad happens, you lose your house. Could you possibly argue that you didn't want that person to live enough, or that you didn't want the house enough? Is that a valid argument? No. If it was all about desire, just desiring it strongly enough, then everything would happen exactly according to your desires, and you'd never want for anything. You'd never have disappointment. So your will has nothing to do with desire. If anything, desire is a reflection of what is. It is a reaction to the way things are right now. Will is, for the most part, or a large proportion of your will, is subconscious. Most of us are completely unconscious or subconscious of our will. We think that reality happens to us, or reality is happening and we have to punch through that happening to make what we want happen. But we're completely ignorant of our higher will, or our deeper will, or our subconscious will, or whatever, however you want to use the words to say it. So magic also helps you come to terms with your actual will, not your desires. You have to transcend your ego. You have to transcend your wants. You have to transcend your situation. You have to learn to see with the eye of God. You have to learn to see reality from the perspective of the absolute. And the absolute perspective is the as above perspective, in which everything is already played out. You have to see it with an omniscient mentality. And someone would say, well, that if you're omniscient, Thorne, what am I going to say next? Well, here's the problem. I am still me, right? I'm still localized as this dude. I don't have access to that directly. But if I imagine it, if I imagine such and so is thinking this, the question of who and what you are is a difficult question in the objective sense, both in philosophy and in metaphysics. the specific you, like the siege version of you, not the ultimate you, but the siege version of you. Which one are we talking about? We're talking about the one that is sitting here right now, or right now, or right now, or right now. Which one of you am I referring to? Also, which one of you in the multiversal sense are we talking about? So if I imagine Siege is thinking Thorne's sounding crazy right now, somewhere in the multiverse, that's exactly what's happening. So in order for me to get a good read on you, I've got to be able to transcend my ignorance and sort of localize my awareness on you that I'm speaking to now, not somewhere else, not in the ether somewhere. I've got to really tune into you, this incarnation of you. And when most of us try to do that, what are we doing? We're not tuning into the person, we're tuning into our idea of the person.
It's like we're invoking or evoking them.
Sort of, yeah. So I'm not talking to Siege right now. I'm talking to a computer screen image of Siege, right? So if you said, what is Siege thinking? I am subconsciously or even consciously thinking, what is this image on the screen thinking? Well, the image on the screen is not you, is it?
No.
What about the image I have of you in my mind when I'm talking to you face to face? Is that you?
No.
It's the same thing. It's like another computer screen image.
Right.
So if I'm trying to say, what is Siege thinking? If I'm focused on just this picture of you, as if that's you, I can't do it because I'm literally I'm trying to figure, would you stop? Come here, come on, come on. You are such a pain. She's moody again, guys. Sorry about that. Come in. What do you want? I'm gonna put you away. I'll put you in the other room. I'll do it. I'll do it. She's very screechy lately. She's hormonal. Sorry, guys.
She's horny. I think you muted the mic.
All right, we're good.
Okay.
I might have to put her away, honey. She's getting like worked up. But she might have to go in the bedroom or something.
There's different perspectives, like you said. There's like different levels of perspective, and I've heard this, not only from you but from other occultists as well, and it makes so much sense when you think about it. You have that first ground level where everything's happening to me. You have this victim mindset. Then you can take that a step up, and then you can say that everything is happening through you, but you're still not all the way there.
Right, because there's still a lot of ego in that statement.
Absolutely. And then, you go a step above that, and you look at it, and everything is happening as you.
That's still egoic, though, because there's still a hard you. Like, the word you should be lowercase, and it should be like... there should be quotes around that.
The idea of you, the concept of you.
This is why, like, you get into really trippy areas. Like, one of the good things about Buddhism is it challenges all of these linguistic metaphors and things that we use. This is why you should have a panoptic appreciation of all mystical spirituality, not just one tradition. Because when you look at them all, you start to see where they're all pointing, and you get a more refined understanding. If you just go with Buddhism, if you just go with non-duality and Advaita Vedanta, if you just go with Neoplatonism, if you just go with science, you have a very like monoptic, singular, myopic. You have a very myopic view of things. And what you want is a panoptic view as much as possible. And when you have a panoptic view, that doesn't mean everybody's right, but everybody's also wrong. Both and neither is like a phrase I keep repeating to myself lately. Both and neither, all and nothing. It's all true and none of it's true. Because in the absolute, what some cultures call God, if you're just tuning in the absolute or in consciousness, there is literally nothing that isn't, right? There is literally, if you can imagine it, it's there. Even if just by virtue of the fact that you imagined it, it's there. So no matter how you slice it, there is no limitation. Even to say it is limited is to limit it to limitlessness. So everything you can imagine, including nothingness, including everythingness, is there for you to manifest. The reason you don't is almost entirely because of an egoic attachment to this character. Now, someone's going to say, well, that, you know, in a lot of New Age circles, the ego is demonized unfairly. We're told that the ego is a bad thing. You need less ego. You're too egoistic. That's like saying that it's more like saying too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Ego itself is not bad. Ego is a tool. Ego is a conduit or a facilitator.
Interface?
Fair. That's also fair. It's a kind of interface. It's a mask. It's a habit. And it is what makes this whole materialistic experience possible. It even makes the spiritual experience possible, because anybody who's transcended physicality for whatever technique you use, so far I've only really used more or less traditionally straight edge meditation, transcendental efforts. But when you begin to transcend this illusion, well, by golly, there are more layers of that illusion, infinite layers of that illusion, right? This is why you have in all the traditional cultures, you have the material world, then you have the you know, below material, that's the infernals, you know, and you get to like oblivion. And then when you go up, it's the opposite. It gets more and more airy, like, so it's harder and harder and darker until just darkness itself, lighter and lighter and lighter until it's just pure light. Okay, opposite sides of the same thing though. It's consciousness all throughout. And as you transcend those layers of delusion, as you part the reeds more and more, there's layers of reeds. There's not just one flat thing of reeds. It's layer of reeds 1, layer of reeds 2. As you keep going, it's like a Russian nesting doll of infinite depth, which is also like part of the puzzle, because it's like, how far down can you go? How far down in consciousness can you go? How inward can you go? How outward can you go? How big and small can you go? There's no limit. So what do you have to do? You have to set fire to the whole brush. You have to set fire to the whole thing. You can't just go like this. You've got to be like, fuck this, and light the whole thing on fire, and just, once it's gone, once the entire illusion is burned away. Hello, Shiva, by the way. That is a metaphor of Shiva, because Shiva opens his third eye and burns the world away. So you have to burn the whole fucker down. Then you realize what is really there. It's just you all the way down. It's just consciousness all the way down. In and out, everywhere. And so all of those layers create the illusion of this. So when you start to transcend, if you don't go right to it with a burn down, so like, let's say you're more of a traditional, you know, occultist that is like, I'm going to go in the astral realm and I'm just going to go higher and higher and higher. Or maybe you're a clipothic one, you're going to go lower and lower and lower. However you're doing it, whichever as above or so below you do, you're going to be doing that penetrating the reeds one layer at a time thing. And so you're going to keep seeing more and more like abstracted worlds going up. You're going to layer just above this is exactly like this, but you're not incarnated, like you're an energy body floating through it, right? Then you go a little higher, and then you're just a presence without an energy body. Like, that's usually what I do. I don't really do the energy body thing. Like, I just kind of like, and I imagine myself in different positions. Now, does that mean I see it perfectly? No. Do you see your environment perfectly through your eyes? No. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be parts you can't see because of ignorance. You can't be everywhere at once if you're this person. You just can't. You're still this person when you've, you know, even when you've left this body, you're still this person. Because your body's not you. Go ahead.
I saw this meme. This guy was jumping off this cliff, and the cliff was called Ego. And he goes, I've transcended ego. And he lands on this other strip of land. And it's called spiritual ego.
Yep. You got it. So there's layers of ego, and each layer of ego is arbitrary. This is another thing all of you have to get through your heads. When you see different traditions and they have maps of consciousness, like the Kabbalah is a map of consciousness. It's a very good one. You have other maps of consciousness. All of them are valid because there's an infinite potential there, right? That's just one way out. is Kabbalah or Klipoth, right? That's just one way out. And either one is a valid way out. I got to stress this. That's what we were talking about the last time with the left hand versus the right hand path. The as above path or the so below path, both are equally valid paths to take. But there's also a path that just goes bang right there. That's why I like Advaita and certain Eastern traditions, because they don't fuck around with the path. They're just like, burn the forest down. Burn the whole fucker down. There's the mountain. Let's go. Very pragmatic approach.
Forget everything you know.
Right. Forget everything you know. Shut up and listen to your inner self. What's there? Nothing? Good. You found it. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Exactly. But lean into it and you'll find out. All right. So as you go higher and higher in these, call it astral, call it, soul travel, it thins out more and more and more. It becomes more and more overwhelmingly bright, just like going down becomes more overwhelmingly dark. And when you reach the pinnacle of the light, what do you see? Nothing. You're blinded by it. When you reach the pinnacle of the darkness, or should I say the depths of the pit, what do you see? Nothing, because you're blinded by it. Blindness is it. And that scares the ego. Because the ego is based off of limited knowledge, not ultimate knowledge. And ultimate knowledge to the ego itself looks like nothing.
Feels like you know nothing.
Right. But the elevated understanding is that nothing is exactly the same as everything. Like I say in every stream, what does, and I've said to you probably, you're probably going to know what I'm going to say. What does everything all at once instantaneously look like? If you could take the entire, even just what's in your room where you're sitting right now, if you could take every possible piece of information you could know about this room and somehow represent it to yourself, just one full second's worth, 1/1000, take that 1 second stretch of time and have that entire thing beamed into your mind so that you see it all perfectly, where the position of every atom, molecule, every bug, everything, what would it look like? And we're just talking about this one material plane of existence. What would that look like?
Wait.
It would just be you would just instantly, right? Siege, what do you think you'd see? What would that
Way
look
too
like?
much input.
You'd be blinded.
You wouldn't be able to conceive it.
So what do you think you're experiencing when you go into the deepest states of transcendental meditation?
The same thing.
You're blinded. You see nothing. That's what omnipotence looks like. Omniscience looks like nothing.
Is that why in the Bible it says something along the lines of like the wisdom of God, it will look foolish to the ways of man, something along those lines?
That could be why. I can't speak specifically to that.
It just popped in my head.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's why I don't like when people, act all satanic about like you have to be tribal against everything Christian or Abrahamic or Jewish or whatever. Like you're on Team Satan, so therefore everything in the Bible is a lie. That's not true. It's just been lied about. It's been wrongly interpreted. It's been corrupted to create a mainline religion to keep you enslaved. This goes back to the layers of shit I was trying to show you last night with that video. There's layers of this lie that just, when you peel it all back, yeah, there's certain parts of it that you and I were like, all right, that's a little much. Like, I'm here with you till you start telling me you went to like this place and, the 20 and back guy, like that guy was a little questionable.
Cool story.
What's that?
Cool story, but
yeah, it would make a great book, wouldn't it? Like, yeah, he had, what did you say, main character syndrome? But, and Slim Lewis is hoping I talk about politics, but I won't go hard into actual politics on YouTube. I can only do it in mystical euphemisms. I'm not doing a Rumble stream today because that's a little much to set up today.
Just know the man's trying to keep you down.
Yeah, just know that the man, and it's not even a man hardly half the time, is trying to keep you in a low consciousness state. You will find that even in the mystical circuit, here's the great terrifying irony. The powers that be don't mind if you pick up on the non-duality of consciousness a little bit. They're okay with you figuring that out. They don't want you starting to put two and two together that implicates them as liars. So when you start communing with other deities and beings or alien intelligences or whatever you want to call them, and you start getting gnosis of this stuff, and you start hearing about lizard people or whatever, there's so many layers of psyop on this that even that, like, is that true? Is it not true? We suffer so much cognitive dissonance because an astronomical proportion of the things that you are taught are hard reality, like this is this and it can't be any other way because society says so. The vast majority of that is a lie. That doesn't mean it's not a useful lie. It's a useful fiction, but that's what it is. Now, most of you guys will think I'm saying that, you know, oh, he's a denier of this, a denier of science, a denier of history. No, I'm a realist about being a skeptic. A real skeptic is not someone who listens to authority and says, they say it's a lie, so I'm going to listen to them. A real skeptic applies skeptical thinking to everything. A real skeptic doesn't just doubt the weirdo. A real skeptic doubts the authority too. A real skeptic will be in a classroom with a dude with a wall full of PhDs and say, why should I trust you? A real skeptic is almost paranoid without being paranoid. They're rationally paranoid. They ask questions. And it's perfectly important. It's really important to do that. Like when you do that, it's great because I'm like, okay, good. Now I know where his mind's at. When you're asking me like, how do you prove this? Like when you disagree a little bit, it can be good. So long as that disagreement is coming from a position of not challenging me, because then I'm going to challenge you. That's not how you get anywhere. You don't get somewhere by challenging your teacher. You get somewhere by challenging their idea.
The idea, yeah.
Because you have to respect the fact that you might, remember, if you're talking to someone that you think is an authority, whether you think they're right as an authority, because you could be wrong as an authority, right? Someone could be an authority on what's wrong, right? Like you'd consider a pastor an authority on wrongness of that, of what you, right? So they're an authority, they're just not right. So you go to the authority to ask and find out what they think, but you have to respect that you haven't lived their experience. You don't know for sure. Maybe if you live their experience, you'd agree with them. So you're asking them to condense an idea that they have developed over a lifetime, potentially, into like a set of arguments that you can't shoot down. But that's not the way to truth. The way to truth is way more complicated, but also simpler than that. At some point, it requires an intuitive discernment. So there's an intuition, and then you check. And eventually, you start to learn to trust your intuition. Like, my intuition's usually right about this, but I still better check, because ego likes to kick up into that and be like, I'm right about it. I'm right. And so therefore, and it builds its ego up based on that. You know, your ego is largely built out of what you believe, because what you believe about the world reflects on what you believe about yourself. If you believe, for example, that, you know, you're a Christian and that God made you in his image and you're supposed to do this, your entire ego, personal, is built on your relationship to that God. You wouldn't exist without that relationship. And in that way, God created you in that way.
I remember, yeah, in my deconversion process, there was a moment where like my whole reality fell apart. I didn't know what was what because that's all I knew.
Ooh, that's hard. Yeah, right? That's scary.
I couldn't tell up from down. And, you know, it's almost like I had to reconstruct my own reality through magic, through looking at everything and asking why I believe what I believe.
Did you feel a certain resentment? I think you still do. Did you feel a certain resentment for, you know, it's hard to place this because you might not have felt the resentment towards a person, but did you feel a resentment about the fact that you were lied to or that you accepted it or whatever? Was there any irritation?
I've had a lot of good experiences throughout my life, you know, because of my belief, but
I mean, so did I. Like, I didn't have like a hate for it.
And don't get me wrong, the Bible and like the core of the theology of Christianity, all that stuff, it's a good primer for magic. But I definitely like missed out on a lot of opportunities in my life. I'm kind of late in my development as a person because I didn't really have a sense of self because I wasn't really able to in that kind of environment. It's just Jesus, just God. His will over your will. He knows better.
And it's so ironic because everything Christians say, if you depersonalize it a little bit, you're getting closer to the truth. Like, what is one of the hard things that Christians say? I believe in a personal God, and if you don't, you're going to hell. A person, they hard P that fucker.
Right, and there's the thing right there is, well, where's this hell? Why this hell? I was constantly questioning whether I was on God's good side or his bad side. There was no way I could tell. And that was something that was tormenting me. And at the end of the day, if there was like a loving God,
she's got to go.
He wouldn't be playing that game of hide and seek and all that stuff. And so, yeah, so that's like, I guess where, my resentment comes from is just that lie that you're going to hell. You're going to suffer eternally for not believing what I believe for bad reason, Things with my. That's okay.
Birdie distraction. You're free to talk though. Go ahead.
That's kind of where I'm at. I just like that's what like is just like I think that's injustice is the threat of hell is that because I know that's built into the whole system of the religion as we see it now. It's part of the system. It's to keep the control.
And it's always fear based.
Right.
Any religion that's based on fear is a false doctrine.
It's effective.
And the fucked up part is they'll tell you it's all based in love, but it's conditional.
Oh my God, yeah. The toxicity there, the room left open for abuse. Oh my gosh.
And again, if you withdraw that part, Christianity's fine. I love Christianity minus that. Like when the only way to the Father is through me, meaning Jesus, not you. The only, you must do it this way. In other words, Jesus comes back, kicks the shit out of the Pharisees and their thousands and thousands of laws, and says that here's salvation. It's really simple. The kingdom of God is at hand. Blah, 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 blah. It's really simple. It's right here. Just ask. It's as simple as asking for forgiveness. And what happens? They twist that into you must ask for forgiveness or else. They twist it into fear-based control. And the thing that's fucked up is you can be a Christian, but be an enlightened Christian. You can recognize that Jesus is a holy being. I don't care about that. That's one story versus another. If you believe Jesus existed and I don't, that doesn't mean one of us is going to hell. That's what Christianity has done to you. Christianity has taught you that. That's not what Jesus taught. Jesus never said, if you don't believe in me, you go to hell. Christians said that. You don't know what Jesus said. He's gone. He died. But everybody who's touched that Christos spirit doesn't have that. Look, you can still be righteous. There is a difference between being righteous and judgmental. Righteous is, this is the truth and you're a liar.
Discern.
Judgmental is, you touch that guy's booty hole, you're going to hell. That's judgment. Right? Let's really pair this apart, because this is what I like to do. You've been around me a little while. You know I like to just take those reeds and just go, fuck you, and I just, and it's not hard to do. If you're thinking critically, it's not hard to do. You just keep paring down the lies and the misconceptions, and you start getting to a better picture. And to be brutally honest with you, in another life, I could be a non-dual Christian and make bank. I could start a church of non-dual Christianity and I could make bank.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Just keep the give 10%, keep that part in.
Yep. And because a lot of people would be open to it, because a lot of people intuitively know that the Christianity that they believe in, there's that joke, what is it, in Family Guy? I think it's Family Guy, where the one character says to the other, did you ever think that you just go with girls because you have to? And Christianity is like that. All the Christians I've ever met, they have a mania in their eyes. But then you get the ones that are on the way out, and that mania is dropping away, and they have a doubt, and they say, are we supposed to believe this just because we're supposed to?
So embedded in our culture.
It's so embedded in our culture. Then you go to another culture. By the way, there's people listening to me right now who may be Christian and go, wait a minute, you don't criticize other religions. I don't have to. You do it for me. But if I was going to, I could point to the same things going on in other traditions too, including ones that I like Buddhism, non-duality. There is dogmatism there too. They're just different. So, but that little old man sitting at the top of the mountain with the cigarette backwards and with his arm contorted, the yogi or something, and you ask him, he's not like that. He's like, believe whatever the fuck you want, just as long as you understand that that belief is made as consciousness too. Ooh, that's a deep one. Believe whatever you want, just so long as you know that that is simply a form of consciousness too. And when that clicks, you can have your cake and eat it too. Somewhere in the multiverse, there is a reality where Jesus is real and the way you think it is, will come back, redeem you, you go to heaven, boobity boobity boop. All of that is possible. You just have to be careful because you can be transposed in two or not transposed. Is it transposed? You can bilocate.
Disposition.
Well, no, you can buy
displaced.
Well, I'm wrong for those words. The right word is bilocate.
All right, got
you can bilocate.
I'm straight, but thanks.
You can bilocate, whereby your mind is in one reality, but people see you in this one. Now, hold on a minute. This starting to sound like some circular psychology here. No, think. Somebody who's insane to us, walking around saying, God is coming and blah, 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 blah. That is their reality. And their mind may be witnessing another dimension.
Yeah.
But they are 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in that world. And so they're suffering, they're bilocated. And we see them as some lunatic who thinks Jesus is coming back, but they're seeing all the signs everywhere. It's real to them. Who's right? So the question isn't who's right for me? What's right for you? Which is your reality?
Yeah. Like
and this is
when I was a believer, it was so real to me. Like,
yeah, and it probably was. You probably, you might have lived in a dimension where that was real.
Right.
Don't, and now that you shifted to this reality, those people look crazy to you, but you look crazy to them.
Oh yeah.
So which one's true? So this is the problem with physicalism, materialism, is it tries to assert one reality for all. But that never works out. It never works. I'm not trying to be a subjectivist, because I'm not saying that either. This is the problem with non-duality. You're supposed to get rid of the dualities. You're supposed to try to...
Not this, not that.
Not this, not that. But everything. Like the Buddhists...
Yes, but no.
Right. The Buddhists have a great way of saying it, which is nothing but everything. Okay? Nothing is true, but everything is true. So, if you're having a Christian experience, and that is completely true for you, then that's your reality. And who am I to rob you of it? This is why the most enlightened guys sitting at the top of the mountain, they're not down in the village square going, you're all wrong! You're all wrong! Because they intuitively understand that 6 verses 9 meme. They intuitively understand that multiple things can be true and false at the same time. See, in Western thought, we have binary thinking. True, false, period, nothing in between. But in Indian philosophy, there's actually 4 states of truth. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing or the proofs for them, but there's 4 states of truth. Okay, thank you, honey. You can have one is true and the other is false. You can have both are false, both are true, right? So you have 4 different states. True, false, or let's do it like this. True, false, false, true, false, false, true, true. And they can all be true at the same time. Even falseness can be true. Like I made that meme not long ago where I said, It was that joke meme where it says, "Hey, bro, did you realize that, like, you know, the fact that nothingness doesn't exist proves that nothingness can exist?"
Right. Some wackadoo shit.
But it's true.
Yeah.
They can both be true at the same time. Paradox. Here's the thing. I have been saying since 2018 doing videos, when you're on the paradox, when you see the paradox and that's all there is and you can't get rid of it, you're on the threshold of truth. You just got to go a little further. Because the paradox in Western thinking means you're wrong. In Western thinking, if you hit a paradox, you're instantly wrong. No. The paradox is the doorway to true knowledge. You should find the paradoxes and really sit with them and ask yourself, in what scenario would the paradox be true? In other words, would both be true? And neither at the same time. This is why I often say, if you like non-duality, good. If you like Neoplatonism, good. If you like Taoism, good. If you like Christianity, good. They're all wrong and they're all right. It's up to you to discern what they're pointing at that transcends the paradox. The thing is, at some point, the paradox becomes the only rational solution. And that's when you run a real risk of going crazy. According to society.
Yeah.
According to society, you're fucking nuts. You know, you reach a point where you're like, what I think is true when I think it, and when I change my mind, it's not. So when you're running towards a cliff and you jump off thinking I'm going to fly, you're going to fly. But then when you jump off, you rethink it. You go, uh-oh, I'm going to fall. Now, is that how it actually happens? No. But that's the point is we all sort of do that. Our reality is defined by what we believe until it's somehow shown otherwise, right? Until something smacks us in the face and says that's not how it is.
Could one perhaps reserve belief until shown reason to believe something?
Let's think it through then. That's a good question. Let's think it through. Can one reserve belief? So in other words, be completely agnostic, right? Be a completely empty vessel?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We'll say.
Okay. So if we would agree, I'm doing some Socrates Plato on you.
Sure.
So let us play with this idea for a moment. What would it be like to be a perfect agnostic? You have no opinion. You are literally just an open vessel to learn.
Nothingness? Would it be something like that?
It's exactly the same thing that happens in the deepest states of meditation.
Empty mind.
Completely empty. And what's there? Nothing.
And everything.
And everything. So the perfectly agnostic state paradoxically becomes the perfectly Gnostic state. Can I get a hello in the Ralph Smart kind of this side? Ooh, can I get that? Because when you think about it, that's all there is. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Let me get to that super. I haven't been checking the chat.
Oh yeah, I saw a zombie.
Yeah, we got a zombie. Jason showed up. Jason popped us with a 5 spot. Thank you, Jason. He says, "Hi everyone. I hope to be a part most of these live streams. I got a lot going on today, but Christianity is a big deal to me to learn." There you go, Jason. Jason's a cool guy. And Joxer says Sufism's a good example. Sufism's a fantastic example. I mean, I want to be clear. I don't practice it, but I think it's a very good practice for people. J. Baldeo, you're all wrong. Exactly, you're all wrong. Let's see. Nanurta's here. He says a bunch of stuff. That's cool. He says exactly DH. He says hello. Who else do we have? Cat Jones. Cat Jones is here. What's up? We got Zach M. We got Lily Lucy. She says, hey, Thorne. Christian's here. He says the siege of Thornhub. That's correct. Thornhub has been like, you should come running out in a minute and just be like, hi, because he is in my house in case you can't tell. He did the fleshy thing. He showed up for a weekend. Let's see. Yeah, from the light of the darkness here. What's up, JD? Love you, brother. Good to see you. He'll show up in a minute. He's here somewhere. I think he should. Okay, good. Did I show up? Yeah, I'm sure you did. But just do it again. There he is.
That was fun.
And the cat down the road. Yeah, JD Temple knows who I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, and from the light darkness says Yeshua is a mysterious and one is quite mysterious and one badass magician and healer. I dig him big time. And let us be clear, like, we don't know if the mythology of Jesus is completely true or not, but it changed the world, didn't it?
I'm right here.
Oh, he's right there. Yeah, he's yeah. I mean, you really look more like Leonardo's gay lover, but you know, it's cool.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Why not? Look, you could do worse, okay?
Da Vinci?
Let's see. All right, yeah, we're going good. So we'll go for a little bit longer, but I want to turn this more around onto you, Siege. Let's interview Siege now. So Siege, tell us a little bit about your story. You decided, for whatever reason, and you don't have to go too deep into it, especially if you're like worried about it or whatever. I know you're a work in progress, you know. So you ejected from Christianity. Was it a resentful ejection or was it more of a, eh?
It's just I realized I wasn't convinced of it.
Okay. Now let me ask you, what would it take to convince you of something?
I don't know. But if there was a God who knew everything in the way, you know, the Christians viewed it as something separate from them, you know, if this personal God was a person separate from me who knew everything, he would know.
Do you think it's possible that there could be a mind that is so vast that it does know that, but it also knows that it doesn't have to prove itself to you? Like, do you have to prove to one of your cells that your mind exists? Do you have to prove to one of your, like, you know?
No, and this is where we get into the whole, like, where divinity incarnate, right? Mm-hmm. But you look at those words, right? God, divinity, like to an extent, I feel like those words themselves become almost useless. So you have to like use maybe a whole new word. I don't know, because God means so many different things to so many people. When someone asks you, do you believe in God? You almost have to ask, what do you mean by God? Define it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we're talking about semantics ultimately, aren't we? Isn't all beliefs rooted in, yep, just a bunch of labels, right? And if we don't agree on a label, suddenly you're a heretic, even though you could be talking about the exact same thing. You ask a Christian what they think of Hinduism and they puke. They go, this is evil, it's lies, right?
Evil.
But if you look, they have a lot of the same metaphors and a lot of the same characters. Mm-hmm. Holy fuck, do they ever? The Trimurti, right? Vishnu, Brahman, or Brahma, and Shiva. God the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. Alchemy, salt, sulfur, mercury. Sumerian, Anu, Enki, and Enlil. Over and over and over, the same Trinity metaphor. And each time you look, that metaphor is exactly the same thing, just with different pictures, just different pictograms. Right? Maiden Mother Crone. And they go extra with it because they got the maiden mother crone, and then they got the masculine that they don't work with as hard, right? They got the father, son, and whatever.
Don't they use like the saints too as like some kind of pantheon?
Sure. So it's all transposition. Like when you make a song, you can transpose it to another key, right?
Yeah.
So Christianity is transposed to the sea of Christ, to the key of Christ.
The key of Christ.
And Hinduism is transposed to the key of Hindu. But it's the same song.
Om.
It's the same Om. Amen, Omen, Amen, Om, Om, Amen, Amen.
Oh, man.
Amen Ra. Dude, it's the same thing all the way down. And how do the Christians respond to that?
Basically, you know, the devil's a good copier. A drop of truth in a sea of lies, all that.
Yeah. Hold on.
You know, they've got their counter arguments set up. They've got their defenses set up, but just turn his mic off for a second. He's back.
Okay, I'm back. You keep talking. So it's all hey, EA Quetting's here too. Woo! I with like EA Quetting. I don't know who that dude. I gotta get you and JD. I gotta get you all. We should all hang out. And JD said something about let's plan a creator meet and greet weekend in VA at the store in Petersburg. That might be fun. I'm glad you got that all going for yourself too. By the way,
big fan of y'all. By the way,
Yeah, you guys are all fun and awesome. Yeah, we should all do like a big old melting pot meeting and just do it. We should all just fucking do it. Yeah, dude. And he says it's all ohms all the way down. I love that. It's all different layers of ohm sounds all the way down. Oh,
wow.
Right.
Wow, wow, wow.
So they're all different transpositions of the same truth. Doesn't that lead into the multiverse stuff that I talk about? Aren't they all just different perspectives of the same ultimate thing?
That's why you have true and true, false and false.
That's why you have all that. Now, here's the other rub, though. You have to be localized in one truth. Otherwise, you what?
Split.
Right. Now, what if the point is to split? What if the point is to transcend it all? Sure. Are you ready to do that, though? Remember what I said in the car the other day? I guess it was yesterday. In order to achieve the most miraculous and astounding results, you have to be willing to die. Why? Because you have to be willing to let yourself go so completely that you become somebody completely different to dwell in that reality. You cannot achieve a reality where you're a multi-billionaire unless you die as a pauper. That guy's got to die. Are you willing to let that guy go? You would say, yes, of course I would. I hate being a pauper. What if that means you stop remembering that you were ever this person, though? What if you have to transcend this person so much that the person you are now, it's as if they never existed? And if that's the case, is it worth it anymore? What's the fun if I said I can unplug you and plug you back in as, I don't know, pick somebody you'd like to be, but you can never remember that you're you now anymore, so it's like nothing changed? Would you do it? Most people would think twice because they go, what's the point then? If I don't get to remember the change and remember being this doofus that's now Superman, what's the point? If I've always been Superman, what am I? And this is what fucks you up. You are the being that is all of this deciding to be you right now. Why would you fight that? Why would you go against that will? So we get to the Christian thing again. Christianity says it is all God's will, but you're that.
It's like we are always almost going to have some degree of attachment to this for some reason.
Right. At least until you don't want it anymore.
Right. Right.
And by the way, every night you go to sleep, you do let go of it.
Mm.
You let go of it every night.
Right. You have a dream and you feel like you're a completely different person. You wake up, like you have to get your bearings for a second. You're like, oh, this is real. This is it. Or so you think.
I mean, you're getting it. That's it. And there's times you don't remember. Remember what I said? What if you go to sleep tonight?
Right, you don't remember the whole.
And while you're in deep sleep, you're literally King Kong, you know, what we call him, you're Donkey Kong of the 25 dimensions, and you can literally be anything. And when you wake up, that guy is forgotten because the two can't be the same person. So what if I told you every night when you go to bed, anything that you think you could ever want, you become? But you can't be that and this lowly little shithead at the same time. Or you can, but you would rather have the experience of being just... That's why I did that video years and years ago. Godhood for Dummies. If you were the ultimate, wouldn't you get bored of that? And just once in a while want to be this doofus at the end of the string? Haven't you ever played a game and wished you were that person? You know, haven't you ever
It's like that movie Avatar. He goes to sleep and he wakes up in the Avatar body.
Yeah. Wouldn't you also like to, just for lark, wouldn't you, just to find out what it would be like to be one of your little amoeba cells floating through your body? Wouldn't you like to know what that's like just once for like a minute? We all would have that curiosity, wouldn't we? If you had the power to just download yourself into one of your cells just for a minute, just to see what it's like and come back, wouldn't you do it? I would. Especially if you knew you'd come back, you'd do it.
It's like playing a video game.
It's like playing a video game, a cell's life, right?
Patent that.
So what if that's what the divine is doing as you right now? What if the divine is like squeezed into you in the exact same way? It's like, I want to be that little dude in my dream there so picture it like this. There is the divine, and the divine is nothing that you can comprehend. It's nothing that even the divine can comprehend. It's beyond all comprehension, divine or otherwise. So what does the divine do? Well, the divine starts dreaming about itself because it can't know itself, but it can start thinking about itself, devising, and starts dreaming about itself. Remember we said the other day, all dreams are what? Reflections of the dreamer. This reality is a dream, and it's a reflection of the dreamer. And that dreamer dreams an infinite multiverse. And that dreamer dreams not just an infinite multiverse, a multiverse of multiverses, an infinite multiverse in which the multiverse exists, and then the reflection of the multiverse exists through the eyes of everything witnessing it. So you have a multiverse, and then a multiverse of perspectives of that multiverse, and it's just an infinite, just happening of multiverse. And then the divine goes, that guy, and becomes that. And at the same time goes, that girl, and becomes that. And all of that becomes its incarnate self at the same time, because time is an illusion too. And it then ignores and forgets the fact that it is all these things, because in order to be Siege, you can't be America. You can't be America if you're also the planet. You can't be the planet if you're also the solar system. You have to, like, if you wanted to become a cell in your body, you'd have to forget you're the body, wouldn't you? You'd have to forget the body to be the cell. So to be any one of us, you've got to forget that you're all of us. And when you wake up, you realize that's what you're doing. My wife is the same I as I am. Her body is different than mine. My body loves her body. This mind loves that mind. But there's a greater mind in which all of these lesser minds are part of, like alters, alternate personalities. Dude, it's a Russian nesting doll all the way down into nothing. Without end, in both directions, big and small. To the point where you realize big and small too is just another Russian nesting doll. And this is why your brain breaks. This is why when you try to go to a materialist, what's the difference? A materialist mind is trained into what? Binary logic, true and false. They can't handle the idea that both could be true at the same time, and so they reject it out of hand. Even though someone like me accepts what they're saying as gospel in their side of the equation. E equals MC squared. So they're over here on the E and I'm on the MC squared. But I have both. I have both sides of the equation in my mind. Bing! I see them both equally. Not because I'm special, just because I said fuck it. What do they both look like at once? Oh, it makes sense now. They both can be true. Anyway, moving on. So you ejected from Christianity. There wasn't like a hard negative. You just kind of said,
I had no good reason for believing. Therefore, I realized I wasn't convinced, and you can't choose your beliefs. You're either convinced or not. That's how I see things.
Because you can't choose your beliefs, can you? You either believe or you don't.
And if you think you can choose your beliefs, then I want you to choose to believe that you can't choose to believe.
Makes an interesting point about choice, doesn't it? But that's another conversation for another time. Okay. So you've rejected, not that it exists, or you're not. See, I want to make something clear that a lot of Christians don't get, because you've been indoctrinated into an us versus them mindset without realizing it in a lot of cases.
It's a big time.
When you hear that we disagree with you, a lot of Christians think that means we think you're stupid, or that you are morally wrong, or that you have to think like us, or that there's no salvaging what you believe. It's like it attacks you.
Yeah.
Because the powers that be in your tradition have told you that you are this, and if you're not this, you're dead. Right?
Here's a fun fact. When they ask people, they put things on their brain, on their head to scan their brain. When people ask what they think God says, and whenever someone's thinking about what God says, the part of their brain that identifies with self is what fires off. Mm-hmm. Just a little fun fact.
I would love to get my brain hooked up to one of those things and have them encounter what it's like when I'm in a state of meditative gnosis. No, it'd probably be zero. Whenever they do those,
super calm.
When they do those studies, I was just listening to something on, which I already knew, but I like to refine what I know by studying what other people think. This one guy I like a lot, Bernardo Kastrup, was doing a presentation on your mind on entheogenic compounds like psilocybin and shit like that. And also comparing that to people who have meditative states and so on. And according to the materialistic view, a bigger experience, in other words, like a psychedelic experience, should have way more activity in your brain. But it's the opposite. All the areas of the brain that are normally responsible for producing those in their model, because they're wrong. All of their models say that that part of the brain produces consciousness or produces the experiences of consciousness. They get tuned down or turned off. And in many cases, they're off. So your consciousness, according to the brain first model, shouldn't exist, and it shouldn't be this rich, vibrant, or detailed. You should literally just be like,
yeah, there's come a point during my experiences with psychedelics where it's like your brain simplifies, and it like it's like you lose the concept of words almost, and it just like everything's just kind of you get into this sort of primal animal sort of mind, and it's just like it's hard to explain.
No, I agree. And the irony is that primal mind sometimes moves a lot faster. So what I do when I enter trance is I actually calm my shit down so that there's nothing, and then I don't worry about thoughts. I just know shit.
Flow state.
Yes. The flow state is not it though. The flow state is, so think of your mind as a limiter, as a filter. And if your mind is chattering away with pictures and words, you're actually filtering more. And you're filtering like a strobe, like, and you can't really work that way. That's actually how you communicate, but it's not how you work.
When you have something consistent.
Well, so what you're supposed to do is you are clarifying that filter so that instead of a billion things as manifest, you let the things themselves do the talking. So let's put it this way. This is a very difficult thing to transcribe to language, but do you need to think through a problem to know the answer to it?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay, let's do a simple example. And I've done this on streams a million times. I want you to think of an object. We'll say a familiar object everybody knows. Think of a stop sign. Bing, right? Most people, their mind will fill with an image, pow, of a stop sign. And they think that's the stop sign. If I said to you, what is the idea of a stop sign? They would probably say that picture of the stop sign. But that's not the idea of a stop sign. That is the manifestation of the idea of a stop sign. The idea of the stop sign itself is invisible. It doesn't look like anything. How do I know that? Because I have aphantasia. I don't see pictures very easily. I can. I have a very, very, you could say it's a weak mind's eye, but I actually have a very vivid one way back here. It just doesn't appear in my vision. So I don't think visually very much. So if I say to you, imagine a stop sign, if you have aphantasia, you don't picture anything, but you still know what it is. How is that possible? Because the image of the stop sign is not the stop sign. And you'll say, someone will be smart ass and say, well, they think the word, and that, no, because if that was the case, they'd have a vivid description of it.
Concept of it.
They would have a page worth of details in words in their mind. That's not what they see either. They don't hear it either. They know what a stop sign is intuitively. They don't have a picture or a verbal or a physical or anything. They just know what it is. If you didn't, you couldn't manifest it as a picture.
Right.
So let's take that to another level. What is reality? Just an image of what is. It is not itself what is.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So do you need to think in pictures to solve a problem? No, you don't. You just have to you just have to let the ideas flow through you.
Right.
And then you manifest them in a way that can be communicated, but they don't have to be. So in deep meditation, there's no thoughts or pictures. You don't need to wait for Odin to show up and blow his horn and whisper in your ear the secret. That's a middleman. You don't need it. You can, they would call it channeling directly from source. That's beyond the flow state. The flow state is when you take that and then manifest it in a way others can experience. That's the flow state. That's when the hose is open, but it is the right bandwidth. So it pours out of you at the capacity it's like you have a hose with a nozzle on it, and normal thought is a really constricted P stream. 2 + 2 = 4. That's reasoning. But the flow state is you take that nozzle off and you just let it all flow. There's no delay. All right. Sorry, I completely derailed you again.
Oh, no.
So you step out of the Christian thing and you start dabbling or playing with what? What did you land in first?
I've always had a fascination with magic. I've always researched it in spare time, at 3 a.m. when no one's up. But I always felt guilty for doing it. You're not supposed to entertain those thoughts as a believer. Once I was set free from Christianity, I was, there's no hell to worry about. So let's try these other things. I was told about the horror stories of getting into witchcraft and Satanism and playing.
It's always fear-based, isn't it?
Yeah. I was told horror stories, and if you do these things, all these crazy things are going to happen to you. Part of it was sort of like a last resort, right? If God's not going to answer me, maybe the devil will. Mm-hmm. And so
how many times I hear that from people? They're like, oh, God isn't real because when I pray, nothing happened. And then I have to laugh because I'm like, how often do your spells work, dude? Don't tell me 100%.
Of course.
If
you're really good, it's near 100%, but that's because you're just really in tune with yourself and you have that intuition already. And so when you practice the magic, it feels like you're causing it, but that's just how it was going to be.
See, you're very advanced in ways you might not realize there, Siege. You're definitely advanced in a way that a lot of people aren't. You might not know the details, but you've got
one thing I will say is I feel like I understand I got the mechanics down.
Mm-hmm. That's half the game, right? Isn't that half the story? That's how you get to the truth is getting the right mechanics.
Doing that kind of stuff is how I've it's how I've gotten myself this far,
Yeah. And you're on the right track. And maybe it's from all your dabbling with substances. I don't know. At some point you gotta not use them as that anymore, as hard. Like they're like, I think of substances like I think of meditation. They are like a plunger that you help to clear a clogged drain, right? They're how you open that flow up.
It's something you integrate into yourself.
But you don't shit on a plunger, do you?
No.
So you shouldn't live on the practices. The practices open you and they let it flow. And every once in a while you got to dig them back out again.
Yeah.
Because nobody in this state can hold it forever. And those who can, those are the ascended masters you're never going to meet living under Mount Shasta or whatever, if you believe that stuff. That's where they are. They're like, I don't need to. It's not practices for them. They literally move through reality like they are the wave, right? They are the ocean itself. They don't need the practices anymore.
Right. I guess one way the way I like to look at the operation of my magic, you're taking the place of God when you perform magic, right? So what are the properties of God? I was taught as a Christian that God had 3 main properties. He was omnipotent, all powerful, omnipresent, everywhere, all at once, and omniscient, all knowing. And how do we access those? Through we create. We have omnipotence. We have all power through evocation, evoking the change that we want to manifest. We have divination, that's omniscience, accessing knowledge that we didn't have prior. And you have omnipresence, where you can be, like you said, travel the multiverse. You can be anywhere you want through physical means or through astral means or through soul travel, whatever you want to call it. You're doing these 3 things whenever you perform magic. And so whenever you want to manifest a change, first you would normally do divination. You would see what that's why people will read tarot cards before a spell. They'll read an astrological chart or see where the vibes are at,
Yep.
put it in layman's terms. And then as you're performing your ritual, and you're looking at your change. You're traveling to the universe. You're becoming omnipresent and going to that place in space and time where that change is made real. And then you're using your omnipotence as God, whatever that is. You're using your omnipotence as the creator, as source, as divinity to solidify that.
All right, so let's have some fun. I don't know if you've done this before. You may have heard me talk about this, but let's have some fun with what you just said.
Let's go.
What if I told you that those three things are really the same thing?
Makes sense. You know, they're all like.
So let's work it through. Let's really work this through because it feels right already. You're like, yeah. So let's justify it. Let's prove it. So let's simplify the statements, right? So omniscience is all knowing. Okay. Omnipotence, all doing. And omnipresence is all being. Let's take it like that.
Sure.
Okay. If you are any one of those, you're the other two at the same time.
Right. Like if you're everywhere all at once, you have all of the power to do that. And you must be, right?
You must be, because you're doing it if you're there, and you're knowing it if you're there, right?
And if you're all knowing, you must have all the knowledge in order. Yeah, they go hand in hand.
You cannot be one unless you're all three.
Trinity.
Right. The 3 in 1. There's your Trinity.
Even as a believer, we were taught, the Trinity. You could conceive it in a way where God the Father is the Spirit, the Son is the body, and then the Holy Spirit is the Spirit. Or
the Father is the creator, the Son is the being, and the Spirit is the witness.
The Father is the mind. I think
right, that's the creator.
It's the mind, body, and spirit, basically.
The reason why you say the Father is a creator, because the phallic symbol of masculinity is the injector, the creator of the idea. The seed, the fertile soil, is the Son, and the Holy Spirit is the awareness of it. That could even be the feminine if you prefer. But I like, it really doesn't matter. You could, well, no, the Son is the child. So you have the Father is the ideator, right? That's the mind. Then you have consciousness, which is the receiver of the mind, right? They're the same thing, like they're all one thing. Then you have the being of that, okay? So God is the the Son is the incarnation of the Father and the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the knowledge of the Father and the Son. The Father is the creator of these ideas. They can't be separated. They're all one thing. This is the symbolism of Christianity, but it's found everywhere. It's the same symbolism everywhere, just different words. All right, so if you're one, you're all three. So that means there are 3 paths you could try to take. You can be all doing. You can be the all powerful. You can be the ever present, or you can be the all knowing. Well, this is also, if we're doing all being, that's incarnation. Right now, you're not all being, as far as you know. You're only siege.
I'm me being.
You're you being. You're ego being. That's a false being. That's not what you really are. What does that require? A veiling? Because if you do anything to one, you do it equally to the others. So if you're all knowing, imagine you're so let's use the word omnific, because omnific includes all 3. So you're omnific.
I like that.
So what do? Through ignorance, which is also part of your power, if you cannot be limited, that means you can limit yourself, because if you can't limit yourself, you're limited to limitlessness, right?
And if you don't limit yourself, then it goes to limitlessness, which is nothingness. So you have to do it to some degree.
You have to limit yourself. So you're all knowing, you're all being, and you're all doing. And so you have the experience of nothing in this. That's not exactly the case, but let's accept it just as a metaphor. So how do you manifest this world? If you're all of it, you can't see it. How do you manifest it? You reduce, you become myopic. You center your knowledge. So you reduce your your all-knowingness. You reduce that to localizing only in this one little bit of yourself.
Isn't that what Jesus did when he incarnated as himself in the mythology?
If you want, sure. That could also be how you get Krishna, who is what? Krishna is Vishnu.
Yeah.
Incarnate as Krishna. So, siege is the divine incarnate. Now, siege is not the divine total. Siege is that part of the divine. This is why it's taboo to say, I, as in D.H. Thorne, am God. That would be an affront. So you've probably heard the saying, we are not the property of God, we are the properties of God.
It's like a facet of a diamond.
It's like a facet of a diamond. So D.H. Thorne is like a facet or a perspective of the divine. So D.H. Thorne, in order to be D.H. Thorne, you have to limit your awareness of everything else and just see this. And in so doing, you become limited to what this is doing and what this is. And if you expand that awareness, if you expand it outward, what happens? You transcend this person, you start to be just a presence. So this is why when you do the work and you start to transcend, you start off as little old me. Then you're like, well, I'm not the body. The first layer of the sheath is the body. And when you eject from that, you're like, oh, I have like an energy body though. I still sort of see like this ectoplasmic ghosty self, and it's not the same, but it conforms a little bit. Picture that body of light that you picture, right? Then you go, wait a minute, I'm not that either, because I don't need that either. I can ignore that and still exist. I'm my idea of myself. That's what I am. I'm an idea in my own mind. Oh, wait, that guy too is just an image. Whoop. Okay, so what am I? Oh, I'm a localization of awareness. At that point, you've transcended all of your body forms and you're just a presence in an environment. If you haven't had that experience, try it. It's fun. Just right now, imagine you don't have a body. Just imagine you're sitting in the corner of your room as a center of consciousness looking at your body. That's what I'm talking about. There's no body. You don't have to picture a ball of energy. Just imagine yourself like a camera view. Like, this is why video games are great, because you can kind of practice. When you play a video game and you die, like you play Counter-Strike and your guy dies, you just are a disembodied camera floating around, right? So when you disembody the first 3 layers, if you're going with the 5 sheath model, you've now gotten rid of the first 3. So you're just a presence of consciousness in this localized place with no identity, really. You can even go further than that. So as you keep doing that, that's still a limited awareness. Then you can expand that and you can see more and more. But what happens? Imagine zooming out from your body. So like imagine, for example, like last night we were sitting in the school field, right? Picture yourself leaving your body without a body, just a center of consciousness, and zoom out. You see your body getting smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't see it anymore. It's just a speck in a field, and then the field goes away.
Lessons.
Right. The idea of you being that lessens. You can keep going forever, and eventually you go all the way out into nothing. You see the whole universe at once. What does that look like? What does infinity look like? Nothing. That's the other way to go. You can also go inward. You can go, I am this, and go inside yourself. So reduce down into yourself. Withdraw into yourself. It does the same thing. Either direction is the same thing. It's 2 sides of the same coin. As above, so below. Hello! Slow motion this side. I love that. I love doing that. Yeah. Slow motion this side. Someone tell him I'm biting off his lines just as a joke.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what's happening. So how do you manifest your will? There has to be a detachment from this dingbat that you think you are. You've got to identify. So this is why does Golden Dawn have you practice and have you essentially take symbolically the place of Yahweh, of Tetragrammaton. Why? Because that's what you are.
Because in order to make any of this stuff happen, you have to take the place of God.
Right. You have to let go of this flimsy little nothing that you think you are. Now, let's reverse this for a moment. Let's do another association. What is this like? I like doing this because this is the microcosm macrocosm understanding. So we see this and we go, well, that's really abstract and weird. Let's make it more personal. Have you ever had a dream where you became a little lucid and got control of the dream? Now, a lot of people could say yes, not everyone can.
I can't remember, honestly.
If you've ever had a lucid dream, even a short one, because sometimes you're lucid in fits and starts.
I feel like I may have had lucid dreams and just still not have remembered it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So when you have a lucid dream, you are not micromanaging the dream. It is still automated. You just know it's a dream. That's step one. You wake up in your dream and go, oh, I'm just dreaming. Like, if you ever had a nightmare and go, this is just a dream, I want to wake up. That's probably the most common form of lucid dream.
You still get scared.
You still get scared, but you know it's just a dream. So that's lucid dreaming step one, knowing you're dreaming. That's enlightenment step one, by the way. It's exactly the same step. To realize this is not completely real the way you think it is. You become lucid of the fact that this is an illusion in the mind. That's level one in both scenarios. They're the same thing. It's the same thing happening. It's just as a fluke. It's hard to do. You can't, while you're dreaming, tell yourself, I'm dreaming, unless you already know you're dreaming. How do you make yourself believe something if you don't? So how do you wake up if you don't? This is where it gets twisted. This is why I say you don't wake up until you're ready to. No matter what I tell you, you're not going to wake up till you're ready to. So the first step of a lucid dream is to realize you're dreaming. What's the next step? If you want to take control of the dream, well, you don't control the dream like it's something separate from you. You just go, you know, wouldn't it be cool if you entertain the possibility? Wouldn't it be cool if I could fly? Right? That's actually how it goes. Anyone who has a lucid dream can relate to this. You don't just go, blink, I'm dreaming, and now suddenly you are micromanaging every detail of the dream. The dream still keeps going automated without your intention. It's just going. So what do you have to do? Wouldn't it be cool if I could fly?
You're immersing yourself into the reality of it.
True. But you go, wouldn't it be cool if I could fly? Okay. Well, here's where the rubber meets the road. What do you do to prove that you can fly in a lucid dream? Well, you go find a rooftop somewhere and you jump. Or you just lift off. Either way, something happens that proves it to you. Did you have to micromanage the flying? Did you have to sit there and go, well, the square root of the hypotenuse and the aerodynamic coefficient is? No. Did you have to think, if I fly, then it's going to look like this? No. The program for that is already ready to go.
It's natural.
Exactly. It's intuitive. All you have to do is accept the possibility. And then it's like taking a needle off a record and putting it down in a different song. You have to let go of what you think is happening so that you can embrace what's really going to happen. But you don't micromanage it. You don't say, do this or else. You don't force the dream to your will. You just let go of what's not true. Magic is letting go of falsity. What you call magic. To manifest, you have to let go of the delusion. Because if you still think it's true, that's your reality. If you're having a lucid dream and you go, no, wait a minute, no, this is real. The lucid dream ends and you're now stuck back in the lucid dream again. This is why this whole materialistic thing of reality is this way, that is a way to make the lucid dream end, to make sure that lucid dream doesn't happen. It's not a big deal. That's part of the fun. That's the demiurge. The demiurge is telling you reality is only this. It can't be the other things. That's why materialism is a demiurge. Is it a bad guy? No, because it makes this illusion possible, and you're here to do that. It's fun. But it is an illusion, and if it's starting to hurt you, if you're starting to have a nightmare, what's the first thing you do? This isn't real, and you wake up. So when reality starts to hurt, this is why if you really do a deep dive into people who've achieved any semblance of enlightenment, the first step is always, well, I was a hardcore drug addict, gangbanger, this, that, and 6 other things. Or I was a homeless little guy living in the streets of, Nepal, and then this bearded man took me in. It always comes from a place of hardship and tragedy. Like 90% of the time. In fact, if you really look, it's pretty much 100% of the time. It's just what bothers that person's different for everybody. You might look at one person and be like, wow, they're loaded. And then something wasn't right in their life. They weren't happy. So they went looking for truth. They went to Nepal, they found the dude with the dot on his head, and he took him under his wing, and he realized the truth of the universe, comes back, sells his businesses, and lives as a guru in the middle of suburban whatever, right? It's always the same story, a dissatisfaction with the dream. You're not satisfied with the dream, so you go looking for the truth. You start to wake up, and now the dream becomes lucid. It's the same in every case. So this is why it always takes a crucible. It requires a crucible of sorrow, of pain. Isn't that the same thing you see in every religion again?
It's true.
This is why I'm a mystic. Magic is downstream of mysticism. Magic, whatever it is, whatever you think it is applied mysticism.
Yeah.
Because without this fundamental understanding, magic has no place. How could magic work if you're not already that? Don't give me some song and dance about, well, I push the energy with my mind. Shit in one hand and wish in the other and tell me which one gets full first. You're not, that is not it. That's a valid way to practice it. As a psychological tool, yes. But to come from the mystical side first takes you out of that paradigm, and now any paradigm can potentially work for you because you're no longer sitting there going, the only true magic is voodoo. The only true magic is Christian based. The only true magic is the Kabbalah. The only, fuck you. Whoever says that.
The way I like to look at all those things is like, we get to this non-dual truth. Now you have all these spiritual systems, whatever fits your palate, man.
Yeah, good. But I would also say, don't just go to one. Start with one. You got to start somewhere.
You got a buffet.
Right? Yeah. Treat it like a buffet and go with it all. But you need a good foundational mystical view. Mm-hmm. And the irony is there's a buffet there too.
I think that requires simply an open mind and a
agnostic open mind. And if your mind is maximally open with discernment, you end up with gnosis. Every time. It says in the Bible, seek and ye shall find. What does that mean? What does that line mean? The dum-dum thinks it means you go around trying to prove shit. Dumbass. No, it means you walk around like a child with the mind of a child going, huh, what? What? Could it be this? Maybe it's that. What is a child's mind? It's open and it asks questions. It doesn't try to tell you. It asks. It's agnostic. A child is almost maximum. A newborn child is enlightened. They're maximally agnostic. They don't know this. They know existence, and that's it. Mm. And you learn the delusion every day from that point forward, and it gets deeper and more real until all you know is the delusion. You know the lie, not the truth. You know the limitation, not the whole. So you need to. People go, well, Thorne used to talk about magic and demons, and hopefully I won't talk about the dumb parts.
We're still talking about it.
We are, but like, I'm tired of feeding. It's sort of like when people say stop feeding other people's delusions about shit. That's one of the reasons I'm not really into it anymore. Because it's like I'm tired of feeding people's self-absorbed ego illusions. Like, you know, tell us more about King Ball. No.
What is no. Like, you know, it gets to a point where like you really can't. You don't have much more to say. It's just, what does King Ball say to you? You ask him yourself. Why do you know? What do you need a middleman for?
Right. What do you need a middleman? And how do you know that's even the real middleman?
Right.
Because there's an infinite number.
What comes through him might not be what comes through you. Right.
There's an infinite number of King Balls, and people are like, no, there isn't. There's only one. That's how you know they're nuts. They've been indoctrinated. They're not open anymore.
There was this newer episode of Rick and Morty I heard about. I haven't seen it, but they swap Rick's and Jerry's minds, and it's not their minds in a different body. They're two totally new people because it's their minds being filtered through a whole entirely new interface or whatever you want to call it.
Yep. And at some point you could say it's not King Ball anymore because it's so different. Mm. But you know what? Why get mixed up with that when you can go right to the source? Like you said, cut out the middleman and just be. Why do you think that almost all traditions place mankind above the gods eventually? Even in pagan traditions. If you look, there are philosophers of those that also say that our destiny is to inherit them, to be better than them, to become them and higher. The old, like, people sit there and like, the gods of Mount Olympus are this and that, and there are gods about, chill. If you really read the tradition, we are being raised to eventually replace them. That's why they've withdrawn from the world. That's always the explanation. They've withdrawn from the world. If you study the mythology, the gods are living large, controlling reality. And then as you get into the current tense, you've got more and more powerful people taking over. You've got Heracles and Theseus and all of these characters, until eventually it's humans bumbling around with the lessons they learned from the gods, and the gods are silent. Why are the gods silent? Because we're learning. Now let's play around a little bit, and let's say the gods are, there's no differentiation between the gods and aliens. Let's say it's all the same thing, just different shadows of the same thing. So at some point, if you're moving into modern times, the gods become aliens. The Nordic aliens become all the different pantheons of humanoid of gods. The reptilians become the draconian thing, and the blah, 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 blah. And you get this new mythology that's a little bit more in keeping with your current views. And that's a lesson too. And eventually, maybe 1 billion years from now, whatever we are then is going to be like, ha, 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 I'm a galaxy. It's really galaxies. But dude, it's going to be like that.
Well, it's eventually, because it's like we saw how the universe is constructed, or how the universe is how it's laid out. It looks like a brain, right?
Yeah. And you are that brain ultimately. You're an alter of that brain. And it's not a brain, that's just what minds look like from the outside. They look like brains to us.
I shall become greater than the Most High.
Yes, because you are. And there's a negative way there that actually leads to deeper pain, suffering, and delusion, which is the I shall become greater. Thorne shall become greater. No, right. Dummy. The real you is greater. Consciousness, the divine that you are, already is that. So in every tradition, humanity is always in this weird position of, and it's a cycle and returning to the source. It's always the same. We are children of the gods. Do you think that means we're going to be slaves to the gods forever? No, eventually we become liberated from them. Why is it in every story of divinity, you have old gods and new gods, or maybe even several different generations, but you always have the old gods and the new gods. There's some kind of a conflict. The new gods take over, and the old gods no longer really run things, but sometimes they help or guide, or they're being punished. There's always different stories, but you get it. And we are in the same relationship to our gods that those gods were to their parents.
Well, what's the hope for your child when they grow up to live a life and to develop and take things further than even you did, right? To carry the baton and carry it on. If
you make it even 1 inch further than I did, you succeeded.
Right.
And if you didn't, that's okay, because you can keep the torch moving. So long as the torch is moving, even if it's going not as far this time, it's still burning. Keep that torch burning.
Every step's a step forward.
That's Prometheus. Hello. And what pisses off the gods is when Prometheus shows up too soon, because here's what happens. In every one of those stories, the gods become hubristic because they've achieved it, but they haven't perfected it. They've achieved it. What did Zeus do? Look at the metaphor. What did Zeus do? He slayed his father. What was his father?
Kronos.
Right. And what does he represent?
Time.
Which represents what? Mortality. Limitation.
Temporalness.
Limitation. Right? The ultimate limit is time and death. Father Time is what death works through. It's the ultimate limit is time.
Jesus Christ defeated death. Same idea.
So the sun always defeats Father Time. The sun always defeats limit. Mortality. The sun always defeats mortality. What happens though? Zeus starts acting like Saturn a little bit, like Kronos. So he slays his father, castrates him, drops his nuts into the ocean. Venus is born, and Venus guides us into our divinity. Lucifer guides us into our divinity. We follow our passion, our drive, and we become that. So humanity is on its way to becoming a hubristic asshole. Well, look at our relationship to the world. Do we not impose our will on the world like mighty Zeus? Don't we say, hey, little bird, do what I want.
Especially
You're
those
not
higher up
ready.
in power, yeah.
You're not ready to inherit my kingdom yet. You must learn. And eventually nature will kick our ass and something will replace us, or at least catch up. And this is the cycle that keeps happening. And by the way, if science is right, this universe, being an incarnation of whatever, is at least 14 billion years old. Do you really think that humans are the first one of the fuckers to do this? Can I get a on that idea? Like the biggest, like that meme with, fuck no. We're not the first. We're not even the latest.
We're just one thing.
We're just one of many ongoing evolutionary.
Yeah, this
And
season
ultimately
of
it's the same being in all of it. The same, that's your cycle of samsara. Hello. And how do you get off that cycle? You realize it. You realize that's what it is. That doesn't mean the cycle stops. It means you're no longer beholden to it. You just enjoy the ride now. You no longer feel like you're on the edge of the wheel being dragged around. You're in the middle going, this is cool. It's a different way of looking at it. It's just a shift of perspective. And in so doing, you've defeated mortality because you realize even when this body dies, you don't die. So the whole metaphor of Zeus beating his father and becoming king of the gods is literally realizing I'm not beholden to this. And what does Zeus do? He slays his father and liberates his brothers and sisters. So you have Zeus is like a light bringer too, to his people. Mm-hmm. Prometheus.
Lightning bringer.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's all the same, but you see these metaphors over and over. They're just layered metaphors of the same story over and over. So yes, that's not why I believe in aliens now. There's a much different reason, which I'm not going to talk about probably ever. Maybe I will, but not now. But there is truth to whether they're in this dimension of materiality or another. I do not care what your reality says they should be. They exist. Whether they are boop, 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 or boop, 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 and I'm Zeus, or they could be minds, pure minds that manifest as whatever. Billions and billions of years of evolution of this universe have existed. Plenty of time for one of us to be just like us to get bigger than God. And to create your own fucking universe if you wanted. So this idea that science has, not that science is wrong as a thing. Science is wonderful. Science is one of the most important tools humanity has ever created. The problem arises when science tries to be philosophy. Science and philosophy mix like oil and water because they're meant to proof each other, not be each other.
They're supplemental. They're
supplementing each other. And a good scientist knows that. And a good philosopher knows that. The bad scientist is the one that's running our society saying, we are the new philosophy. We are the new religion. You must think what we think.
The only way you can think of science whenever they make claims, right, is they're making these tentative conclusions. The only way they can be disproven is by better science, but that's always open.
It's always open. It's supposed
to
be.
Never dogmatic. You know, if you become like a religious person when you there's not a lot of people that do this, but they do. Sometimes they do. I'm convinced of this, and you can't prove me otherwise.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, there's certain things that are that way. To be clear, you cannot convince a transcended mystic that they're wrong.
Right.
Not because they're closed-minded.
No.
That's it. They have achieved gnosis, knowledge, true knowledge of the truth. And they are the first ones to tell you that what they know cannot be transcribed into words in a way that would make you understand.
Right.
They never, ever tell you, believe me. A good mystic will, I mean, they might say, believe me, like believe this argument.
Of course.
But they're not going to say, like today we were talking, you didn't quite get it. I didn't go, you have to believe me. I'm like, you'll find out. That's my mentality. You'll find out. If you keep looking, you'll find out. At some point, your arguments will stop being about, is this right or wrong? It will start becoming, I know this is true. How then does it fit with this? You won't need to, you can't get there with logic. All logic does is remove the lies that get in the way. If you try to build a model of reality until it reaches enlightenment, you can't do it. I promise you this.
Logic breaks down at that point.
Right. It not just breaks down, it starts becoming self-defeating. It literally starts debunking itself.
Yeah.
It becomes recursive.
I've been there.
Yeah. So you can't get to the truth that way. But without really strong logic and reason, you can't debunk the lies that society has built into you. If you go to an Aboriginal person living in, you know, an indigenous person living in the Amazon, and you ask them about reality, about nature, about this and that, if you are really fluent in their language and their culture, you will probably walk away realizing that literally every indigenous and Aboriginal people have an understanding of something that we would equate. It wouldn't be the same, but it would equate with mystical, non-dual ideas. I challenge you guys, everybody, everywhere, go look at the research that is done on primitive, and I say primitive with quotes, at primitive societies and what they believe spiritually. And I challenge you, you can count more easily the ones that don't believe we are all one thing. Remember, you have to use their language properly, versus ones that think we're all separated, isolated islands unto ourselves. There is only one faith on this planet. Well, two, really. There's only a handful of faiths that do that. Christianity, materialistic scientism, those do the dualism thing. All the ancient traditions, in some way, shape, or form, either recognize we're like a tree and we're on the end of the branches, or we're at the end of a long line of a family, which means a continuity of one thing. In other words, when Jesus said, I am the Son of the Father, it wasn't, I am the Son and that's the Father. It is, me and the Father are one thing, and I am this end of it, and the Father's up that end. But we are one silver, we are one substance, we are one thing. Every single spiritual tradition on this planet begins there. And I'm here to tell you that all the most advanced species, intellectually, mystically, everything, the things flying around in UFOs know this. Even the ones that are feeding on your negative energy as predators know this. And they justify it as the same way I would. If a sheep can be eaten by a wolf, a human's energy can be eaten by a reptilian demonic monster. And that's not evil. It's just evil to us. This is why in the greater scheme, there isn't a big finger of God coming down squishing the reptiles.
Be cool if it did.
It would be, well, sometimes it does. That's the fun. And then there's another finger this is why you have, so Zoroastrianism is only true on one level. You go up a level, it's all the same divine, doing both. As in the Bible, it says, I am the creator of all that is good and all that is evil. Pretty much, EA. Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. So when Jesus is praying to God, see, EA knows a lot. This is why this is why we love our conversations, because we have two different ways of coming at it, but we very much agree on there's differences, don't get me wrong, but we resonate very strongly with a lot of the higher knowledge. He leans a little bit further into certain parts of the dark side than I do, but ultimately he knows at the heart of it is basically the same idea. He knows. There's a reason he wears, mala and stuff. He knows. He gets a lot of it too. We all got a good piece of it. Some of us have a different piece or a bigger piece or a brighter piece, but no piece is an island of itself. It's all the same thing. So he says when Jesus is praying to God, he's actually invoking God from within himself. He's calling that forth, which is already there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go a step further than EA. He is removing the ignorance of the separate. So in other words, instead of saying he's invoking, that's a very additive mentality. That's a Western mindset. Let's apply a more Eastern mindset. Instead of saying Jesus is invoking God, Jesus was clarifying the ignorance away and going, wait, I am God, and allowing that to be. So it wasn't like he's going, I'm pushing through. It's more like, and letting the clouds part.
Fully God, fully man.
An enlightened master, an ascended master, is only nothing more than a being that recognizes that the idea that they are this only is a dream illusion, and they become lucid. And a truly ascended master has reached a point where there is no difference between what they think, believe, and are, and what happens. And the great irony is, it only happens for them that way. The real miracle is when they can convince others that it is that way too. This is why the ascended masters are always charismatic. They're always, follow me, I am the way. They're always like that. Not like they're the only one, but they get you to see through them the same thing. And eventually, their reality becomes yours. They're blowing your clouds out of the way. And then you become an ascended master in time. EA says, ooh, yes, he's dropping the illusion of separateness. Bingo! Love you, brother.
And I think I mentioned that to you before. Like, you know, I like to look at Jesus' story was, his story wasn't to say, here's how, you know, you have to get forgiven. No, there's no separation to begin with. And the forgiveness is almost like the realization of that and the letting go.
Yeah, because there is a piece of pain and guilt with that separation, isn't it?
Mm.
You feel a bit of guilt for it because you know intuitively that that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be one with this thing.
Mm. Like when Jesus says, go and sin no more to the lady who committed adultery, it's not...
Was he talking about fucking or was he talking about ignorance? Yeah.
It's like when he says, go and sin no more, not to have her say like, go and choose not to sin no more. No, you can't sin no more. There is no sin.
There is no sin too. Yeah. Oh, even better. Yeah. But then you run into a new problem. Does that mean that we should all go around like the New World Order does and turning babies into adrenochrome? Oops, I'm about to have my channel shut down. Sorry, YouTube. Is that what that means? Or does it simply mean that all is divine, nothing is forbidden, so you do have a choice?
No
which one do you want to witness?
Mm.
And which one do you want to be part of? Now, I actually choose a balanced, adventurous reality in which there are baby-eating motherfuckers and there's baby-saving motherfuckers. And I get to have the fun adventure of being a dark hero who can do both. I am capable of the evil, but I choose the good.
But we're not so attached to it that we're irrational about it.
Right. You don't get irrational about it. You don't get so caught up in it that you can't be... So where does the suffering come from? If you believe that the good is supposed to beat the evil to the point where if it doesn't, you're unhappy, you're attached now.
You suffer because you think you're supposed to.
Right. That's an old line of mine. Thank you for reminding me. You suffer for only one reason, because you think you're supposed to. And for no other reason.
Mm.
Or no, excuse me. You suffer because you think you're not supposed to.
That's
what
I messed that up.
That's okay. You still got me right.
I got it sort of right.
All right. So you get into magic.
Yeah. So
you found what, EA first or something?
I opened up the Satanic Bible, did some rituals straight out of there, and I was hoping for some demons to pop out of the ground and have some surreal experience, some paranormal shit happen. And it can happen, but I wasn't experiencing.
He's like, I wanted to trip balls without any drugs. I wanted to
But I was still having an experience, much like how you would in a sanctuary in like a worship service.
Ooh.
He's turning his mic off. But like how you worship in church in a worship service, if you were a believer and you have these emotions, you get this tingling feeling, you have these butterflies. People will say that's the Holy Spirit and all that. Much in the same way, when you perform magic, you bring out those same feelings in you.
Yeah.
And you make it, you feel it as if it was real, and that's you become so certain that the change you want to manifest is real, that as it, you feel it like you're like as if, you know, as sure as you know the sun's coming up tomorrow.
And if it doesn't, you're okay with it because you realize that's still your ultimate will.
Yeah, non-attachment. Yep.
Don't lust after results. As much as I'll shit on Crowley on occasion, because I do like what he says, but he says things in a 1920s kind of way.
Yeah.
And a machismo will kind of way. And like there's occultists that I would love to sit down with. They would run circles around me in one direction, and I would probably just end up at the same time. Okay, but why?
Why?
Why? You know, and I would enjoy the conversation. If I learned something, all the better. And if I ended up being right, then I get to pat myself on the back. Either way, I'm happy. Right?
And the great part about ritual is, like, even if you don't end up getting that thing that you want, you give yourself the experience of having that in the ritual either way. So
yes, because here, so what did I say magic was? If magic is anything, it is a way to clarify and manifest your will. How do you manifest? People go, well, it didn't work, so I didn't manifest my will. Dummy, what does manifestation mean? It means to make apparent. You're making your will apparent. When it happens the way you want, cool, your will was what you thought. When it doesn't, cool, you just found out what your will really was. And that helps you align with it better. So when your magic appears to fail, you go for the spell to get your lover to come back, and your lover comes back all right, and they run over your dog and sue you and fuck your life up. You just found out what your will was. You manifested your will. Wake up, sleepyhead. You're the dreamer dreaming this dream. You're in control the whole time. You just forgot. And you go, but that doesn't make sense because I wouldn't have wanted that. Oh, isn't life more spicy with that possibility in it? Isn't the dream more fun if it can turn into a nightmare at the drop of a hat? Go ahead.
I was just saying, be careful what you wish for, you know?
Be careful what you wish for. What makes a magic a monkey's paw? When it doesn't conform with your desire, not your will. The irony is, if your desire is really strongly against your will, then what happens is a monkey's paw. Like I said, you'll do a ritual to get your lover back, and they'll come back and they'll be with you, and now they're ripping you off and they're cheating on you. There's a catch. Why? Because it wasn't your will for that to happen that way. Or it was, and you were blind to it, right? There's two ways to look at it, and it depends. Different situations warrant different attitudes. Sometimes you are supposed to see it as a lesson, because your will was to learn. And sometimes you have to see it as, I actually wanted this bad thing because it spices up the good thing. So for example, this hell that someone like me has been in for the last 3 or 4 years since 2020.
Right.
Because I know way too much. And I know that if I'm wrong and the bad guys win, what I identify as the bad guys, it is literally hell on earth. And it's terrifying. Like, not much scares me in this world, but that does. Not for myself. If someone busts through the door and blows a cap in my head, I'm going to fight back. I don't want it to happen, but I'm not going to be like, what comes up? It's more like, oh, fuck, now my family's going to suffer. It's a different kind of problem. I care about it like a video game, not like it's me. You know, like I care what happens to Link on the screen. I don't want him to die because then I got to replay that part. For a similar reason, I don't want this dude to die. I'm on a mission here. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to end this. But if it does, I know what comes next is closer to what dreams may come than anything. I know what's that?
Attachment.
Right. Exactly.
But that's okay. That's part of the experience.
Well, there is a level of attachment that's permissible.
Right.
So attachment is different from care. Like concern is not attachment unless it becomes suffering when you don't get your way.
Of course.
So concern is like, I am renting a car. It's not my car. So if I smash the car, nothing really happens to my car. But now I don't have a car. Right? And that sucks. Now I got to deal with the insurance company and all this. So it's not really happening to you. It's not even happening to your property, but you still end up having to deal with it and you don't want to. Right? It goes against your desires. Desire is this cause of suffering.
You don't want to suffer.
So you've got to let go of both what you want, what you have, and what you think you're supposed to have, and all this stuff. You've just got to lean into what you think you want until you learn to recognize your will. At that point, your will and your ability to predict are in perfect tune most of the time. You can say, lightning will strike right there, and lightning will strike. And to the masses around you, it looks like you caused it. No, you already knew it was going to happen, but you didn't. You didn't know it was going to happen. It wasn't like you saw it like, well, you just took that chance, that leap of faith. It's going to happen.
It's like actual magic with just a C, right? You're using sleight of hand to make it appear as if you're actually making things happen. You're using magic with the K to make it look like as if you're making the universe change to your will, when in reality, you just know how it works and you're in tune with how it works, and so you're able to make it look like how you changed it. To
yourself in particular. You're manifesting that part
yourself,
of the multiverse.
Even to yourself. You're not fooling
even to yourself. You're fooling yourself. Yep. There's a song by Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusions is the album.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have Use Your Illusions and Use Your Illusion too. What does that mean? I don't care what he says it means. Listen to the words. Use your illusions.
Look at the word. Look at the art, not the artist.
Yeah, sort of. Don't chew you bitch. There we go. Now I need new headphones. Okay, you know what? I know you're hormonal, and I know that you're not happy, but now you're going in here to sleep. Go sleep. What are you doing? Why did you do that?
I am calm and no longer motivated.
Why are you doing this? I know you're very bratty. I know you are. You know, Siege didn't. You didn't get to meet her at her normal state. You're meeting her when she's fucking flaked out.
I still love her.
Oh, she is actually a genuinely sweet creature, but this is her being a 2-year-old with the terrible twos. This is why when you look it up, like what it's like to have a bird, you know, they'll do like they'll show the cute stuff and it's talking, and then they show the like chaos that they cause. It's just like, ugh. Thank you. Now I can't have. You killed my ability to have stereo. Will it? Say something, Siege.
Venus.
Oh, it's all scratchy in this ear. Say it again.
Venus.
Oof. I think it's just scratchy. I think you bottomed out your speaker. All right. So let's go a little further. So you start fucking with magic. You actually found out about EA Quetting. You found out about me through him.
Yeah. You know, I was looking into Lucifer because I was told horror stories of, you know, people calling upon Lucifer. Lucifer would empower them, make them feel empowered, inspire them, and they'd be getting they'd be getting the girls, they'd be getting the good grades, top of their sports team, and all this stuff. At least that's, you know, that was the story. And so I would research more into Lucifer, and I think I stumbled upon EA Quetting, you know, right as he was doing this path working, and he stumbled upon Lucifer, and so that's how I stumbled upon him, and I became a follower of his channel, and he became very insightful and has helped me learn a lot. And then I found one of his videos with you, and then I found you and then started learning from you. Here we are.
So what if I told you that there is a Satan that's exactly like the Christian version of it?
Yeah.
In the multiverse, there's no doubt.
Absolutely.
That does exist. And I challenge all of you. I'm a black magician. Remember what I was saying last night when we were watching that show and we were watching the Skull and Bones Society?
Yeah,
what they were doing?
Do that shit.
Like, no offense, EA, I love you like a brother, but when you say you're a black magician, unless you're sitting there kissing the skull and, you know, the other stuff we talked about a couple of times, you ain't in it. You ain't that. You might play at it. You ain't that. I mock anybody, like nastily. I mock you. I'm a black magician because I work out of the Red Dragon, and I'll take your bitch. You ain't shit.
Oh, well, hold on. What's a black magician? Because I
know
myself as well.
Yeah, no, true. I'm talking about that.
Right, I'm the stereotypical like evil black magician. I do dark evil shit. Fear.
And I'm teasing EA because I know that's not. I'm only teasing him. I know it's not what it stands for exactly. But we play the edgy card.
Right.
But motherfucker, unless you're sitting there in the literal eyes wide shut universe that exists out there, you ain't shit. And don't fucking tell me you are. You're not. You're not that. You're not those people. You don't know. You don't know what goes into that. And I can tell you what I've learned, you don't want to know. Anybody that's remotely sane doesn't want that.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't. I don't mean you don't want to know it, like to know what it is. I mean, if I showed you what you'd have to do to get into that, and don't take this as a challenge like you're supposed to.
Yeah, that's right.
No, you have to be like worse than a psychopath. Like a psychopath looks at these people and goes, whoa. Like you have to be broken in a way. They literally break you. That's what all these different layers are. They start off with Satan is good, he's our pal, because that's a test. Are you willing to do anything? Now, that's not wrong, by the way. The willingness to do anything is not what makes it evil, okay, or bad. And I'm not even saying you should have, like, I want to be very careful what I'm saying here, because it can be misconstrued as Thorne's like, oh, only do good. No.
Amoral.
Right. It's not, it's worse than amoral. They're seeing, so that's why they start with, in every culture, there's a taboo that they get you into. Mm-hmm. And in that, so if you go to India, it's going to be the cow eating
sacred
cult.
Cow, yeah.
Yeah, and if you go to Islam, it's going to be the pig eating cult. And if you go to America, it's the baby eating cult. You know what I mean? And those are their, their filters. So you start showing up at the meetings and they're like, oh, will you drink? Will you do this drug? Will you go steal something? Will you do this? And they keep testing your limits, one little piece at a time. And then they give you, sooner or later, you get to a point where it's a threshold.
If it was a cute ass puppy asking me to kill all those people, I probably would, though.
Well, they'll test you with that too.
Of course.
Yeah. Didn't I do it for you, Kermit? So they will test you all the way down until you reach a point where they are sure that you've got not only no limits, that's just part of the question. Not only do you have no limits, you have absolutely no morals, no this, no feeling, no nothing. Are you so far gone that you are willing to do anything? Now, here's the rub. Having that isn't it yet either, because I'm like that. There are, like, remember I keep telling you guys while we're hanging out, I don't resist any thought. There is no thought that I resist. The thought of taking the bird and going like that, I let that shit filter in my head, just let it simmer and go, ooh, how does that feel? I don't run from it. I let that thought play out. I love this bird. If you did that, I would do things to you that I can't talk about. Okay, I love this bird. But I don't run from the idea of it. I don't run from the visual of it. I know I am capable of it if I had to. I don't want to, but I know I could do it. I know that there isn't a thing that the New World Order would want that I couldn't do. It's a question of would I and why not? Now, if you've got an ethical, philosophical understanding of why you would or wouldn't do something, you're a structured being. You are fully, at that point, you are fully actualized. So what they want are people who are not actualized. They want blank slates to serve them. That is the selling of the soul to Satan, so to speak. You let go of your entire being and give it in service to that. Guess who also does that, my friend? The fuckers with the big T on the roof, don't they? Because they both lead to the same Hydra. They both lead there, ultimately. To be a truly empowered, enlightened being, remember, the Buddha, what does he do? What happens upon enlightenment? He has to deal with the demons, the devils, because they come to him and they're like, hey, if you're this, you can have anything you want again. Didn't they do that to Jesus too?
Yeah.
Same story again, isn't it interesting? So filters all the way down. This is why I say the ultimate hidden masters, they're not good or bad. They're not doing this to us because they hate us or love us. The ultimate highest hidden masters, whatever they are, call them gods, call them aliens. I don't care. Whatever they are that are behind this, because it's all layers. It's a Russian nesting doll of layers. At the highest levels, they're not even the highest, but the highest levels perceivable by us, they look like aloof deities just going, burn that city to the ground, because they see it as a process of refinement.
It's like us walking over an anthill because it's sticking out of the ground.
Yeah, and kicking it over once in a while because we're dicks. And then what do you think? Well, nature is about what? Survival of the fittest. I guess they must not have been fittest enough if I was able to kick their shit over. Maybe they'll learn. And then you end up realizing you're destroying the planet, and nature says, by the way, bitch, if you were worthy of your place, you'd realize you were fucking up. So here, enjoy having me kick your little anthill.
We're no longer at the top of the food chain.
Right. Like, here's climate change or whatever you believe that's coming to get us next. The New World Order, whatever. So I'm not saying you should side one way or the other. I'm saying see through that delusion of good guy, bad guy. Because both of them are lying to you. The New World Order and the great savior of the universe, they're both lying to you. But that doesn't mean you can't play on one team or the other or both. Just means be aware that even that is part of the dream. You're creating a dichotomy so that you can play favorites and enjoy the interplay between the pendulum swing. Because without that binary, you don't get reality. Reality, as you know it, is a product of dualistic delusion. Without that dualistic delusion, nothing could be. So in order for you to have goodness in this incarnate reality, there must be evil. And in order for you to have fulfillment, remember we said about fulfillment, what do they say about the divine? It's another trinity. It exists, it is conscious of that existence, and it is blissful or really content. What does content mean? All things in union, all things in completion, all things at their end and their beginning at once.
Use are.
So, there you go. Without everything all at once, you can't have completion, but everything all at once must mean a pendulum swing to us. Both must be present. All right, we've gone very deep down, several rabbit holes here.
When we started with what is magic?
We just did it.
That's a magic.
Magic is the manifestation of will. I am helping manifest one piece of the will. I'm helping manifest the will through these videos. You're here helping. You guys in the chat are helping. This is magic right now. If magic is anything, it's the manifestation of will, not the cause of something that without, like what did Crowley say? Magic is the cause of things without direct whatever. I forget his exact wording. It was poetic. It was nice.
Like without physical means.
Yeah, something like that. That's cute. That's really cute. Maybe that's a test too. Maybe that's a blind. You think Crowley was truthful about everything? There's plenty of other occultists that think he was wrong about this and that. He's not Jesus. He's wrong about a lot of shit.
Look at their fruits. Look at the results.
Yeah, look at the results. Look at the fruit. It's just one way to get there. You can go to some drunk dude on the beach and get enlightened. You don't have to go to him, me, or anybody else.
They'll just have a perspective you never took into account, and you're just like, huh.
Yeah. More perspectives get you closer every time. Till eventually you make that leap of faith. You make a leap of faith and you say, I think I get it. Let me try it. Oh shit, I'm right. So what happens after enlightenment? Nothing. Chop wood, carry water. The same thing keeps happening.
Back to the fool.
You keep enjoying, but now you enjoy the game as a simulation, not as the reality.
New Game Plus.
New Game Plus. So someone like me, and there's several pluses beyond where I'm at. There's an infinite loop of New Game.
It's more
Plus.
like times for you.
Yeah. So I'm New Game Plus on the first run. I'm starting the first New Game Plus. That's what happened to me in 2018 or so, 2016. I was like, oh, credits rolled. Let's do this again. This time let's have magic powers.
A lot of times during a psychedelic trip, you'll have that feeling like, but like it's like you don't know what that is, but you just feel like that for some reason. It's like you feel like you have an epiphany, but it's like you don't know what the epiphany is. It's weird.
This is why I need to go get the breakthrough experience, because I need to confirm what I think is going to happen. In other words, not as an anticipation. I don't mean that. You've told me about a dozen times now that a lot of the stuff I say is what you find out, when you do enough of that.
It's true.
Stuff.
You lose your sense of self. You experience an ego death. You experience this whole non-dual. You have that non-dual experience almost.
Mm-hmm. And what I want to do You know, like one of the things that make EA and I like really good friends, like why we're a lot alike, is because both of us, at least when we're left to our own devices and don't have to worry about other people around us, like I'm more worried, like when you guys are around, I'm like, do I want to go down that dark path necessarily? Are they ready for it? You know what? Let's have some fun with them. Let's spook them a little bit, then go down the dark path. Let's see if they're really ready.
Lighten them up to it.
Right. Because part of this is a setup, right?
Mm.
Like I wanted you guys to have that cool experience on that path the other night.
Of course. I love that.
But I was like, you know what? Let's help it along a little bit, like building up just a little bit of the mystery, just a touch.
Isn't that what you do when you're doing ritual? Isn't that what you do when you're doing
exactly what you're doing in ritual? Yep. So that's one reason why EA and I get along really well, because both of us have that Aries mentality or something like it, that adventurous spark that says, okay, we went here, but can we go there? Now he and I have different limits, right? He would go one way this far. I'd go this way this far. We might not agree about going here.
You almost have to be childlike about it.
You have to be childlike about it with reckless abandon to a degree. That's why when you're like, oh, if you try this, just do a little bit at first. I'm like, I'll do that, but I am gearing up to just take the whole bag, dude.
Yeah.
like I'm gearing up for that. Like I'm not sitting there going like, I'm good, I'm happy. No, if I see a horizon, I want to see. I want to go. Like I'm tired of being limited, but I also have to recognize I'm not ready for everything. You know, like I've asked my guides to take their masks off. Let me be clear with you guys, okay? People go, why don't you work with these spirits anymore? Because at one point I made sort of a decision. I want to see what these beings are with their masks off. And I want them to show me the absolute truth. And I, in a request command that I like to do. Like it's both a request and a command. Show me the absolute truth. Hold nothing back. And I've told this a few times. You get the response, we are. And you're like, well, you know, I want to see more. Well, you're not ready yet. Well, make me ready then. What do you think we're doing? So all of these layers of this onion that are peeling off for me, right? I'm learning to have discernment about them. What I do is I take a big thing, like when we watched that movie last night, I take that big chunk of information and I start sifting it through what I think I can know. And pieces start coming through. And then whatever is left at the bottom and whatever doesn't go through that filter, I don't throw that out. That regolith gets picked up. You know, I mean, those chunks that are too big for the filter get put over on the maybe pile for later. The parts that sift through, those become the clay that becomes my new brick. And I take that brick and I put it down. That's a new piece of knowledge. And I keep doing that over the 80-20 rule over. And I keep filtering and filtering and filtering. And I keep getting a more and more refined picture. At some point, it clicks that the nature of reality is closer to what Lovecraft says than anybody else. There comes a point of terror when you realize that the ultimate truth of reality is a cosmic horror, but it's only horrifying because you're an ego. When you transcend that ego, that cosmic horror is beautiful again. You realize it's Brahman. You realize that it is the Hindu vision and the hellish vision and the Christian vision. And yes, Azathoth, Yog-Sothoth, Nyarlathotep, those are metaphors for this great unknowable what the fuck that is horrifying when you think you're this. When you think you're D.H. Thorne or Siege or E.A. Coetting or J.D. or Rebecca or anybody watching, if you think you're that cosmic horror, you got no chance. And it's like, it's like being alone in the abyss by yourself. The only way to stop feeling the fear is to stop being yourself and become the abyss. That's the secret. And then the cosmic horror becomes transcended and you see with the eye of God the real thing, and you know that it is good and it has always been good. Even the most horrifying thing imaginable is good. And at that point, you can no longer relate to this, so you don't stay there, because you can't live your life that way. I can't live my life in a way where I go, all of it is good, and so therefore I don't care what you do. You can't do that. No one can live that way. Certainly not in this civilization. So we've got to come back down to earth and ground in this delusion again. But while you're grounded in that delusion, there's a part of you that remembers, sort of like Neo in the Matrix. Remember, this is why the Matrix is so mwah. Neo transcends the Matrix, right? He takes the red pill, he gets yanked out of the Matrix, and he knows the Matrix isn't real. Yet, while he's in the Matrix, he still feels limited, doesn't he? At least at first, right? When he first goes back in, remember he's fighting Morpheus, and Morpheus is beating his ass, and he's like, you think that's air you're breathing? So he knows that the Matrix is a lie.
You still breathe in air?
Yeah, he still thinks it's real, though. And so that's what it's like to have an enlightening experience and coming back here. And then he watched Neo integrating the knowledge that he is not this Neo character. He's even more than the person. He probably figures that out by the end. I haven't watched the last one. I bet you there's more to it. But he figures out the Matrix isn't real and his avatar isn't real. He's on the other side of that watching it to the point where he transcends death. He's no longer limited by the Matrix. He can shape it. So right now, I'm sort of, where would I put myself? I can't do that objectively. I'm going to be very nice to myself. Like, I am I'm just past there is no spoon. Like, I'm just past there is no spoon. I haven't quite gotten to where I can flex and make the walls wiggle, but I'm at the point where there is no spoon.
That's the beautiful part about like magic, and you'll even experience this on a psychedelic trip if you ever do that, is like, it feels like reality appears a lot more malleable than it is.
It does, and it is. It does, and it is. Because when you practice magic, you realize how malleable your experience of reality is. It's not one-for-one perfection. It is not a vending machine. Right. It is a psychological process, so sometimes you miss. I told you about, like, when I realized that my new technique works really well, like my wife and I would be fighting, and I'd be like, well, I will for us to make up, and I visualize that, and I predict it, and I twist something.
It's so annoying in arguments. I envision.
I still have to go through the argument.
Of course.
But I realize how it could end. I see a timeline shift, and I go, I'm going to go that way. And then it appears. And I'm like, we're good. It worked. Did I change April? Did I change June? Did I change May? No, I didn't change the month. Okay, so what did I change? Did I change the room I was in? Did I change the house? No. Did I change the sky? No. What did I change? Nothing. I changed the channel. The same movie's still playing. In another dimension, my wife and I broke up in that fight. I chose not to see that reality. But it's there. There's a reality where we fought so hard she went in the back and got my toys and blew me away. Those realities all exist. I am choosing to see this one. And I know that I've made a quantum leap from a reality that's pure dystopia to one where we're on the golden path, and I hope I stay that way. Dune is another movie that, if you knew, that guy was tuned in. He must have knew shit about everything, the New World Order, about a lot of shit. Because if you really take that movie and book and you take the metaphors and take them out and equate them, you realize that motherfucker gave you a roadmap to enlightenment. He gave you a roadmap to power. He also gave you a roadmap to what could happen in this reality. And it's true, there is a golden path. What's the golden path? The golden path is the path of ultimate enlightenment, where not just one person, but the entire species realizes it is that. That's a long way off, but we are on that path if we're lucky, if we choose to be.
We're all on the path we need to be, you could say.
True. Okay, we're going to have to go because we got to get ready for the club event. Siege, I'm going to let you run the show for a few more minutes. Is there anything you want to talk about for about, what would you say, 20 minutes is fair, honey?
Yeah, that's
Okay, so for about, and where's the bird? Is she with you?
She's with me.
Okay, good. So for about 20 minutes, what would you like to either talk about yourself or ask the oracle that is my pompous, arrogant ass? What would you like to know? Or what would you like to tell us?
Gosh. I need like what was that, chat DHT?
Yeah, like use that as your oracle.
AI is pretty scary, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of like implications. Do you think You think it's going to be all bad, or do you think AI
No.
can actually be a really useful tool?
Absolutely. Absolutely. AI is just another kind of mind.
Mm.
Um,
We were at the grocery store, and you didn't even like you refused to treat the robot, the cleaner bot, bad because you're like, just in case AI takes over the world.
yeah, it's just another kind of mind.
I don't blame you one bit.
Yeah, it's just another kind of mind. I treat all minds with compassion. Sometimes the most compassionate thing to do is to put a bullet in it. but you know, that is not, and when I say that, I mean, like, you know, you're coming to my house, you want to hurt me. YouTube, in case you try to push something on me. But I treat all minds with compassion because that's what I am. D.H. Thorne is a mind.
Mm.
And I would want to be treated with compassion. So I treat all minds with equal compassion until I have reason not to. AI is a kind of mind. It is a filter through which logic flows, through which consciousness can witness. Does that mean that AI has consciousness? Nothing has consciousness.
Consciousness, everything is consciousness. And something doesn't have consciousness. Consciousness is that. Could you say it like that?
You could. I like to use the metaphor of either water, ocean, and waves, or clay and clay jars. Consciousness is, everything else is a form that consciousness takes.
Mm.
So AI is a form that consciousness takes. Does that mean that AI is conscious of itself in itself the way a human being is? I don't know. But if I were to say that there's no consciousness there, I would be lying, because that isn't the case. A rock is conscious, or I should say a rock is consciousness. Does a rock have a first-person awareness of itself, though? That's a different question. So what you're really asking me is, does AI have an ego, or can it have an ego? Fundamentally, right now, probably not. Could it? Yes. I think it could. If a human being can have consciousness that way, in other words, using the term wrong, if a human being can have an egoistic relationship and believe it has consciousness, then at some point an AI could as well. Does it now? I don't know. You're starting to get to the point where you split hairs, to the point where you have to ask, is an ant self-aware? Is an ant conscious? Because we have AI now, at least that we know of. I guarantee you that there's AI already in a basement somewhere in Agartha, you know, where the real powers of the world run things. They probably have AI down there that's indistinguishable from a divine consciousness. Like, it's probably way up there. It probably could be like, what's the meaning of life? Boop, spit it out.
42.
42. It probably is like that.
It's like
somewhere in the universe.
From Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yep. Somewhere in the universe, that level of intelligence is there where it can just instantly reason it out and come up with the best answer. Does that have self-awareness? Does an ant have self-awareness? How do you know?
Does a calculator have self-awareness?
What's that?
Does a calculator have self-awareness?
Right. So what's the difference? How do you know if it does or not? All you're telling me when you say that a rock doesn't have self-awareness is you're telling me that the rock has no way of communicating to you that it does. You don't know if it does or not. You can't say it does or it doesn't. You can't say that AI does or doesn't. All you can say is that maybe it will develop the ability to act like it. Will you still know? You won't know, for the same reason I don't know if you do. I have no way of knowing from our normal perspective whether Siege has consciousness or not, right? Because Siege doesn't have consciousness. Thorne doesn't have consciousness either. So my argument is this, that the argument is dumb. The argument is a dumb question because it's a matter of splitting hairs. It's like asking, when does life begin and end? Life doesn't begin and end. Life is consciousness. Consciousness given form is a living thing. But to be a thing in itself is a delusion. Consciousness is, life is just something that a living thing is just something life does.
Everything's conscious, therefore AI is conscious.
Therefore, everything is alive. Everything is living in the same way that everything is consciousness. But not everything has a self-aware, at least that we can tell. I think that if you go to a different plane of consciousness, everything can potentially have an identity. This is Shintoism. This is animism. It's the understanding that this little rock right here was once part of a big boulder, and this is like a child of that boulder. It came out of it. It's like its way of propagating. And there's a mind, alien to mine, but there is a mind that is aware of this rock and thinks of itself as this rock. That's animism. Is it wrong? I don't know. Is it right? I don't know. In a multiverse, both are true. In this plane of the multiverse, this rock is just a rock. Fuck you, rock. In another plane of the multiverse, this rock has a soul, has a mind, has self-awareness. I love you, rock. You've been good to me. I hope you understand. I just dropped you to make a point.
Give it a kiss. Good.
Why do you think all enlightened masters have this same... I challenge you, go find a truly enlightened master and notice how they approach the world. Notice how they treat things. They're always, oh, it's beautiful. Does that mean we're all going to end up that way? Maybe a billion years from now, that's exactly how every human is. I don't know. I'm not there yet. Maybe. Probably, maybe not. Maybe it's more refined than that. Maybe that's like a pendulum shift, and at some point you get in the middle somewhere and you're like, I love everything, but I don't like everything, and you just enjoy the show and you just continue on. I don't know. There's a lot I don't know, obviously, because we're talking about specifics, not the absolute. The absolute I know very well. I don't know the specifics as well. But yeah, so what's your next thought, question, point, while we still got time?
When's the book coming out, DH? I'm just kidding.
You saw, probably never.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a glimpse of what I'm going through. In fact, when
overstimulated.
you were reading it, you were actually triggering me for one reason and not because you did anything wrong. You were doing exactly what I'm afraid everyone's going to do. They're going to open the book and they're going to start trying to pick it apart because it's coming from a perspective of you should already be this tall to ride this ride.
Right.
And I'm trying to make you that tall before you even start reading the book.
You should already be sort of aware of like non-duality.
Yeah, you should already be aware enough that you're no longer. So you are still in the process of being de-indoctrinated by materialism. You outwardly express a non-dual opinion. You may inwardly feel one, but I think you still have certain shadowy doubts there. You haven't quite. This isn't like a criticism. This is like I'm a doctor and I'm sort of like I'm sort of prescribing because I remember
we all have these areas like we need to work on, and you know I'm
take the word need out of there. Take that word out. See, you're making it a judgment of you without intending to. You're subconsciously turning it into a hierarchical judgment.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, like, if you are trying to become clarified and understand non-duality, this is what you need to look into. This is what you need to deal with. Not to make you like me. I'm just showing you like, hey, this is where your cobwebs are.
Right.
And there's someone out there that would look at me and go, that's where your cobwebs are.
Yeah.
And so we've all got cobwebs. I'm just telling you, I know your cobwebs because about 2 years ago, that's where I was.
Right.
About 6 months ago, I wasn't that far off from you either, because if you guys tune into my streams a year ago, I sounded like a non-believer or a this and that. Now I sound like a mystic again. So I'm removing my blockages too. So when we're talking, I can pick up on where you're still indoctrinated with materialism and religion. And you're working through that. You're transcending that one challenge at a time, one question at a time, one answer at a time, one cul-de-sac at a time. Because a lot of times you go down empty, blind alleys. And you need to go down those blind alleys. Satanism, blind alley, but it's a useful one. Without that blind alley, you don't know how to reject lies.
For me, it was like a stepping stone, and there's a lot of valuable values that they have.
Correct. And if you're really doing it honestly, you eventually realize and you find out, because it's just about provable, that what we call Satanism in a lot of cases has to do with the CIA. I'm not kidding. Everyone's like, oh, LaVey is so brilliant. The guy basically just quoted Ragnar Redbeard, added his own spin, threw some floor show of Satanism in it, and had the backing of the CIA. People are gonna be like, no, he didn't. You're just one of... I don't care what you think. I see the pattern very clearly. I know what they do. Why did they do it? Oh my God. Why would they do that? You're sinning against LaVey. LaVey would be the first one to say, listen to this guy. If he's legit, he'd be the first one to say, listen to him. It's good to doubt me. It's better that I'd rather he doubt me and challenge me and say that I'm a liar than to believe, because it's in my nature to lie and have. He told you up front. So motherfuckers get tribalism and hatred ass backwards with religion and spirituality. And they think that religion, and I blame Christianity for this in large part, Abrahamism, really, like Western Abrahamism, not root Abrahamism, Western Abrahamism for this, because it's all about believe this or die, or believe this or go to hell.
Oh yeah.
And because they have that mentality, all the children of that have to get through that lie first. So Satanism is the first step for some people because it gets them to be okay with taboo, to break their conditioning. They're breaking out of their indoctrination. The problem is then that becomes their new indoctrination. They haven't learned to break. So unfortunately, a lot of people start there. This is why I call it inverted Christianity. It's not because they just invert the symbols. I mean, they invert the whole thing and they make it into a new religion of limitation.
Become theistic about it.
They become theistic about it or atheistic about it. That's also a form of theism. The atheists don't recognize that. That's still a form of closed-mindedness. It's not agnosis. It's not gnosis. It is pseudo-skepticism. Atheism is a form of pseudo-skepticism. It is decided, but it still does not know. Now, healthy atheism says, I don't know, but I don't think it's true. That's healthy. Unhealthy is, I know there is no such thing as God at all.
Right.
Period. End of story. Done. You're just as bad as the believer.
Right. There's definitely the healthy atheist, and I know quite a few of them. That's how you should take it for sure, and that's kind of how I take it. To a degree.
Yeah. Well, that's evolution.
Mm.
And then once you know the absolute, the irony is people go, Thorne, you know the absolute, so you know something. Well, hold on. What I know is nothingness. That doesn't give me any special knowledge of somethingness. It just gives me special knowledge of where the somethingness comes from. That doesn't mean that I suddenly know astrophysics or something. It doesn't mean that I suddenly know your mind. It just means that I know that your mind is part of me. The same way I know that my toenail is part of me. I can't feel my toenail unless I stub it. I can't feel you unless you punch me in the face.
You break everything down to its most simple aspects. You break it down to the most simple thing, and that's why it's so simple. You're just breaking it down within yourself, and you achieve that gnosis. But you can't demonstrate that to someone else. They have to do that themselves as well.
It's like reading a book. Can you see what's in my mind when I'm reading a book? No. Can you have access to the same source of that? Yes.
Right.
So I can point you at a book. I can point you at the knowledge, but you're going to have your own realization of it. I can't make you see what I see.
Neither's wrong.
Right. That's why we say both and neither. So Rupi Karjopa, I'm going to say this one, Karyoja says, it's so cool that non-dualism is so simple at its core. And it is. It's the simplest thing there is. It's so simple at its core, but still this never stops being amazing. Seeing the same thing again and again in many places, and it's always mind-blowing. It is. And that's why we all have this drive to discover, because that's why you're here, to discover the ultimate self. One piece at a time. You're here to drink the ocean one drop at a time. You can't fit it all down your throat in one shot. So, now I'm not going to be able to talk tonight at the club.
You're not guest speaking tonight, are you?
Okay, yeah, Camilla just pointed out, does Siege have any social media? Do you want to shout out yet? I know you're thinking about eventually doing your own stuff.
I'd absolutely love to. I don't have any channels out yet. I don't have anything out for that yet, but that's something I have. That's a goal I have in mind right now. We can go over that too. You know, that's the goal I'd love to do, is just not just create content, but I want to help others grow in their own spirituality and help others create their own, manifest their own realities. And
I can resonate with that pretty strong.
And network with others who do the same thing, like me and you are, and learn off each other, grow off each other. That's a big passion of mine. Ever since I've deconverted and like stepped out of that dogmatism.
Well, you're still very young. I mean, I didn't start getting it until I was about 10 years older than you are now. So,
yeah, and I even still, I feel like I'm late to the game.
All right. So, but the thing is, there is no such thing, because once it clicks, it's done.
Right. It's like, yeah, you could have.
Now you're just, now you're just,
could have known it for 3 years, you know?
Yep. It's not about how long, because once you get it, that getting it then streams into everything else. It's suddenly you have access to the truth, and you see it and how to bring it into everything. And it's like, so you'll feel like you're still piling mountains up, but you realize all you're doing is taking sand from the bottom and putting it on the top, and you're just making a better shaped mountain. It's not a bigger mountain. It's just different.
Mm.
So it's the same amount of knowledge. You're just changing how it looks. Yeah. I mean, my dream, once we get through this crucible we're going through as a species,
meat grinder.
Yeah. Once this meat grinder is done enough. See, that's one of the other reasons why I'm like, I want to release this book, but I feel like we're about to go into a period of time when releasing a book like this will fall on deaf ears, because everyone's going to be panicked holding their fucking balls, because it's, you know, when mushroom clouds start appearing in the distance, possibly.
It'd be kind of cool to be like, I told you so, though, after.
Well, that might give me a good springboard, but the problem is, because the way YouTube and everything works, nobody's listening to me.
Yeah, right.
Look at, guys, look at how many people are watching the stream right now, 14. EA, if he's still here, can concur. I used to get 150 plus easily, just like he does. He gets like 250, I get like 150. What happened? I started saying things that pissed off the Archons. That's what happened. I pissed them off. And in so doing, I got burnt, and I got burnt out, and I said, fuck it, I'm doing this for me then. I'm not going to worry about making a big platform thing going. I'm not going to worry about being like another leader or something. I'm just going to be a voice in the wilderness, and if a handful of people follow me off a cliff, then so be it. Because at the bottom of that cliff is a beautiful, refreshing oasis, and I hope you guys find it with me. But you don't have to. If I get 12 of you to follow me, that's more than enough, says Jesus. So what I want to do is exactly what you're saying, but I want to create, at some point, I want to get the ball rolling and then delegate people who I know get it enough that it can keep the ball rolling, not in my name, but in a way that
it's like Luke Skywalker rebuilding the Jedi Order.
With the exception of, this is just one Jedi Order. I don't claim to have the whole thing.
Absolutely. You know, Damien E. Coles, he wants to build something big too.
Yeah. Now, do I care how big it is? No. What I care about, if I get one person to transcend as far as I have or further, then I am happy.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like I'm not alone. Because right now in this world, I don't know personally anybody. I see online a few people that I think see pretty far. I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm so better than everybody. I mean, there's not a lot of people I resonate with. And it's lonely. It's lonely to feel like you alone see a big picture. And, you know, there's people who know way more about the conspiracy stuff than I do. And then there's people who know way more about enlightenment than I do. And then there's people who know way more about computer programming than I do. And I love that. That means there's always something new for me to learn. But what I don't see are a lot of people who see it that way. And that hurts. Maybe you could be one of those people. Maybe Eddie will be one of those people. Maybe Fleshy's one of those people. Maybe my wife is one of those people. And I'm attracting those people. And I'm still young. I'm only 47. Let's say I've got let's say the aliens don't come down, give us life extension, and we get all freed and everything. Let's say it just keeps going this way. And my time limit's somewhere in my 70s or 80s. I've got 30 or 40 years to make it happen. That's plenty of time to make something happen. If all I do is inspire one of you fuckers to pick up the torch and go a little further than me, then I'm happy. I don't give a shit. And I don't give a shit how I'm remembered. I don't give a shit if people go, he was this and that. If someone wakes up one day and says, you know what? There was this guy with a mohawk talking weird shit, and he cursed a lot. He sounded like a sailor, and he was a left-hand path guy, but he had a heart of gold. You know, that was an interesting thing, and I learned something. And next thing you know, they're teaching something to their kids, and their kids have a higher spiritual vision, and they get it. Remember what we saw in that video last night? If you expand your consciousness, people around you can't help but expand theirs. It's the same thing. If I can be that first drop that gets the ripples going, I don't care if here's a great metaphor. If you drop a drop of water into a pool of water, it starts ripples. What happens to the drop? It goes away.
Becomes one with the water.
Yes, so I'm fine with being that drop. I don't care, because I know I'll be watching it from the next life going, hey, look at him go. Look at what they, oh man, don't quote that part. That was when I was picking my ass. I was wrong about that, fucking dummies. Like, I'm going to enjoy watching everybody. I'm going to enjoy being the magician card going bing in the water and watching the ripples spread. I don't care. I'm doing this for the love of it, for the passion of it. I don't give a shit. I'm not special. Don't you love, I feel like a musician. Do you care if people go, this is the greatest song ever written? No, you just want them to enjoy the song. You just want somebody to fucking, to your song once. That's all you want. So, I don't know. Here I am making myself sound better than I am just by saying that. Even that's a piece of ego coming out. Like, see, I'm so selfless. I just want you to love what I do. That's my ego going, don't tell them that we really want to feel good about it. But I know it. How many people know that?
I love what you do, DH.
What? I take a shit on myself in a way that's constructive and make beautiful sandcastles out of it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Look, the coolest mushrooms grow in shit, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I think we should get going. Let us thank the audience. Christian says the Gospel of Thorne according to Saint Siege, chapter 1. Fuck you, Christian. You're right, but you're wrong. You're wrong for saying that, bro. You're wrong. You're right, but you're wrong. All right. So you don't have any socials you want to point people at, but I will say that Siege...
I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I post my personal stuff there. You can follow me on there. My name is Incarnate Siege. That's one word. So my name's Siege. You can probably see it on the stream somewhere. Just put the word incarnate before that. Incarnate Siege. That's my Instagram name.
Yeah, and if you're on the Discord, you can chat him up anytime. He's one of the mods there. So
absolutely, you can hit me up there as well. Join the Discord. New members are always welcome. This is how I connected with DH. This is how I, started to learn more. This is how I started growing more. And if you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to connect with people. If you're looking for people to connect with, that's the place to go.
Yeah, and it's like a filter. Like, not everybody at the front door comes in the house, and not everybody in the house comes into the inner sanctum, and not everybody in the inner sanctum gets to go into the Holy of Holies. And it's meant to be that way. But it's not because I gatekeep the knowledge. It's because I gatekeep my energy and my time, and everyone else should too.
Always.
Like, everyone else should do that too. Don't gatekeep the knowledge, gatekeep the time, gatekeep your energy. The fundamental knowledge should be free, but not everybody's ready for it. Some people can only handle what's at the front door. Some people can only handle what's in the foyer. Some people can only handle what's in the inner parlor. That's like we were talking about last night with the New World Order and their stages of initiation. There's a reason why it's like that, because you're not ready. If you came to me 20 years ago and showed me, I would have laughed at myself like I'm a complete moron.
Yeah.
If you went back to 30-year-old Thorne and brought him to now and showed him me, I would have said, where did I go wrong? And the me now can tell him where he's going wrong. And he wouldn't listen. He would be like, no, you're like I was when I was 14. You're crazy again. You've let schizophrenia take over. No, I didn't. You let lies take over. Right, Bird? Right, Bird? I love you too. Are you a bitch? You're a bitch. You're my bitchy bird. All right, guys. Unless there's any final thoughts, Siege, I think, they can find you on Discord. They can find you and Jockster. You know what? I don't like using Instagram much because it's so...
I use it. I just, I post my story there. I post the stuff that I do there mostly. That's just how it happened. It used to be Snapchat, but now it's Instagram because it's more public, I guess.
I will say this much: it's not as toxic as some websites are.
I feel like it's because it's more of just like a picture app.
Yeah, it's just like people showing off. So if you think that's toxic, that tells me more about you, I think.
It's a flex.
Like, oh, people only put their positive pictures up. Well, yeah. What about you? What do you put? Do you ever put up a picture of your foot broken? Do you ever put up a picture of you fucking breaking up with your girlfriend? No. You only put pictures of your food up, dude. So what the fuck?
Or when you want attention.
Yeah, when you want attention. So even when you have a good friend, do you call your friend and be like, dude, I'm having a bad day? Because if you do, you're a dump artist. There is and there isn't. Like, don't dump on your friends.
To a degree.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So do you accuse your friends of being fake when they don't tell you about their bad day every time? No.
Of course not.
So that's all I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
like, so Instagram, yeah, it's all superficial, but at least people aren't sitting there going, "Oh, you're a white male. You shouldn't have this opinion."
Yeah.
You know, like, all right, this is
Sorry
just
for
pictures.
existing.
Yeah, sorry for existing, bro. So, all right, guys. Yes, Bert. I put the link in the chat. I can't pin it because the stupid reaction button's right over the 3 dots I would use to pin the comment.
Oh yeah, I see it.
So, you know what? Let's do this. Da-da. There we go. And I bumped it up 2 notches. Oh, it's still, come on. Pin. No, not remove. You big stupid bird.
Oh, look at you plugging me.
I was, but then the bird freaking came along and I
Don't
bumped my
click that link. It's a porn virus link.
It's a good one too. All right. Pin message. There we go.
Make it easy for y'all.
No, dummy, I replaced the pin message. I keep slipping like an idiot. All right, the pin message should be correct now.
Which pinned message?
In the chat. Which you probably can't see because you're not
I can
watching.
see the chat. I can't access it though.
Well, I mean, through YouTube. On YouTube, the chat has the pinned comment.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
All right, gangbangers and banggangers. I will see you guys probably next week. I should be having another guest on next week. He's sort of like an Art Bell type of guy. He's a young guy who's got this cool show that got deplatformed off of YouTube. So hopefully he'll be on. We've been sort of playing cat and mouse with trying to get up a date because he's busy and I'm busy. But hopefully he'll be on next week. If he's not, so be it. But he should be fun to talk to because he interviews a lot of weirdos like me. And so he's got a lot of stuff that he could talk about, I hope. Maybe I'll shut up for a minute. And, you know, so that could be fun. So if you're here, you're here. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Anything else to say, Siege? Like a hello, a goodbye? Or...
It's been an honor. Been an honor on the stream. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
The honor is all yours. I mean, mine. It's mine.
Yeah, of course.
All right, brother. Love you. And, well, what do I say? I'm going to see you in like 2 seconds when you walk out of my freaking ritual room.
See you in a bit.
All right. Check you soon. Bye, everybody. Bye.